Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a petty man, but I am here to say, I told you so. I told you so. I fucking told you so. For the last goddamn year of my life, people have been telling me that I am insane. That I am ridiculous for assuming that they will put all three Spider-Men in one movie. Well, who's laughing now, bitches? Because guess what? I was right. And it was good. And fuck y'all for telling me that it wasn't gonna happen. You made me doubt myself. But I won. I did it. All of you told me that it wouldn't happen. Every single one of you are doubters. But when will you learn to understand that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to the spider and the man? So fuck you, because I told you so.
Yeah, fuck you.
Maybe we can start with apologies. Austin, would you like to go first?
Have I ever doubted you? But I mean, I'm sorry, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm going to say you have some big Flash Thompson energy right now.
You know what? That's fine. I'll take it.
God, he's right.
in fairness, I believe too.
You didn't believe strong enough.
That might also be true.
Plus, you like John Walker.
He had an appearance, a little cameo, indirect cameo.
I actually did not watch the second post credits, by the way. I left.
Okay, we'll get to that when we get to that. That was the
because
better
my fiance was suffering, so I was like, we can go.
Okay,
I will Google it, and I just forgot.
Mm-hmm. Also, one quick thing. This is a list of things I wanted to tweet out, but I didn't because I didn't want to spoil the movie. 1, the gif of Thor going, yes, from Ragnarok when he sees Hulk. The gif of Thor going, I knew it, when Cap catches the Mjolnir. A gif of Han Solo going, it's true, all of it. A gif of Thanos going, they called me a madman. And that video of Thanos at the very end where he sits down and he watches the sunset set on the Grateful Universe, that was me. And speaking of spoiling this movie, Alec, give me the 1.
We don't have a 1.
Fuck you.
Okay.
So, for those of you who are spoiling this movie, and this is going to be the social vid, by the way, because nothing in this video we can say publicly. So this is the social vid now. If you're spoiling this movie, your father should have pulled out, okay?
Woo.
You don't deserve to be on this earth. There's no reason for you to be that mean, okay?
Fighting
So
words.
if you think you're all cool, I don't know what happened. Were you beat too much as a kid? Did your dad leave you to go get milk? Don't take it out on us, you assholes.
Yeah, you heard it. He said it.
Don't go into a public restroom at a Buffalo Wild Wings and spoil the movie for me, please.
Oh God, did that happen?
Yeah, my friend and I were at Buffalo Wild Wings before the movie, and I'm just going to the bathroom doing my thing, and then somebody walks in and just shouts a spoiler. It's like, cool. I mean, I kind of figured that would happen, but cool.
I
literally about to see the movie in a half hour. Like,
I walked into the movie theater like this because people were walking out.
Yep.
I was so afraid because the first showings were at 3 or 4, and I saw it at 7, and I was so afraid of people walking out of the first showing being like, it's like that Simpsons clip where he sees Empire Strikes Back and he walks out and he's like, I can't believe Darth Vader is Luke's dad, and I'm like, why would you do that? I was so afraid. So yeah, I was
it's funny that you mentioned that Simpsons clip because my friend, when he was walking into the movie theater to see Last Jedi, someone walked past him going, man, I can't believe they killed Snoke. Spoilers for The Last Jedi.
Yeah. And by the way, so I believed, but I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it right. I didn't want to get heartbroken if it wasn't possible, wasn't true, or the way they executed the big thing about this movie. So I was hedging my emotional bets here a little bit. That's all.
Brett.
And I never called you out. And I never called you out.
I don't think a lot of us did, for the record.
I was always supportive of you, of your
people
belief.
have called me crazy.
I also want it on the record that Brett's stance on this was probably safer than Jordan's, because if they weren't in this movie, can you imagine?
Or if they were in 2 minutes, hey, what's up, bye, you know what I mean?
That's what I expected, to be honest.
Yeah.
So. I knew it, guys. I knew it. I willed this into existence. I have a Facebook post from 2016 saying this should happen. So you're welcome. What should I will into existence next? We're getting an
the Mega Man Battle Network. games.
That's
About,
the one,
like-
actually, that's the one I kept going for, but yeah, something in
I
this.
was gonna say like no more COVID, but you know what? Sure.
I'm not that powerful, okay?
He's not Greg Miller over here.
Right. Okay.
Alrighty. Anyway, hi everybody. If you haven't realized at this point, this is Shared Screen's Spider-Man No Way Home spoiler cast. If you've gotten this far, I'm sorry that we spoiled it.
Hmm.
But full disclosure, we will be talking. Every single part of the movie is acceptable to talk about, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say this because I know I'm gonna reference something. We will probably also be spoiling other forms of Spider-Man media, so do with that as you will.
Mhm.
Joining me today is Alec Bobko,
Hello.
Austin J. Ernst,
That's me. Hello.
and he'd be a little bit cooler if he didn't like John Walker. It's Brett Jamerson.
Got you for an hour and 30 minutes.
All right, guys, what are our just like thoughts? So I saw the movie last night, and I've kind of been numb all day and letting it sit with me. But what are your thoughts?
Well, I personally, as somebody who's grown up with Spider-Man, like literally from the animated series in the 90s, he's been one of my favorite heroes. Seeing this, I absolutely loved it. Like, it was everything I wanted it to be and more. Like, getting to see the other Spider-Men, the other villains, like, actually have some of them get the closure from their stories that we never got. It was awesome.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned like growing up with him because I know all of us here at Shared Screens are roughly the same age. Like we're all in our 20s, generally speaking. But some of us are a little bit older, some of us a little bit younger. And I'm just gonna like talk about my age specifically for a quick second, and you'll see why. Tobey Maguire's first movie came out when I was in kindergarten. His third movie came out when I was in 5th grade. So that's like the entirety of elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
There was no Spider-Man in middle school. Then Andrew Garfield comes along. And keep in mind, when I'm in kindergarten, Tobey Maguire is much older than me. I'm in high school now. Andrew Garfield comes along, and his movie comes out. I like it. It's really cool. His second movie comes out my senior year, the same year he graduates in the movie. Like me and his Peter Parker are the same age. And then so then that lined up very well. And then Tom's Spider-Man gets introduced the same year I'm graduating community college and going into my like 4-year school, dorming for the first time. So they all come at like pivotal moments in my life. But like I've always defended the Andrew movies because I can't unsee the fact that like me and you were the same. One of them was a little bit older than me, one of them was a little bit younger than me. But that was the one time I matched up with Spider-Man. And to like see them all together and like think about the way each of them connect to such different but pivotal moments of my life, it was something that like I didn't realize I needed. And like I'm about to cry, so like Austin, you can go.
Oh, okay. Hi. My thoughts on the movie, just like blanket statements. Is what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
I'm probably lower on the movie than everyone else here. I didn't want to follow Jordan because Jordan's like, I'm gonna cry right now, and I'm probably the lowest on the panel.
You're gonna make him cry for another reason, maybe.
Probably something like that. No, I do love the movie. I think it is a great film. I just personally think that the first I don't have the exact like time codes or whatever, but the first like 45 minutes of this film, I genuinely think are bad. I thought they were boring. I thought the characters were kind of like either they weren't like themselves. Like it felt off to me.
Can you give me like a general point of the movie? Because like you said, you don't have the timestamps. Like at what point, up to what point are you saying you think was bad?
Yeah, I was getting to that. Until I think when she dies. When not Mary Jane.
Aunt May.
Aunt May, thank you. When Aunt May dies. There was a moment right before that where like he starts kind of getting angry when he's fighting Green Goblin, when he's like throwing these like elbows on him.
Yeah.
And I feel like for some reason that was the moment it started getting serious for me. Like the whole premise of this, of like Doctor Strange doing the spell to help Peter, felt tonally completely off to me. I don't think he would have ever done that. I don't think MCU's Doctor Strange would have ever done that. I don't know where this came from. Did something else happen to Doctor Strange in this middle time that changed him that I don't know about? What is that?
I think we basically get a hint at the end as to why he did it, because he's explaining to Peter like the spell he asked for at the very end. He goes, "You realize that means all the people that love you, we won't remember you." He said "we," and then he pauses because he's admitting to himself and to Peter that I do love and care about you.
That
And
also seemed forced, though. Like,
I feel like it
I
wasn't.
understand he cares for him, but like,
I feel like it's one of
have
those
they?
things where it's like, we say this all the time. Superheroes go to therapy challenge.
Hmm.
Doctor Strange wouldn't want to admit to himself that like he loves and cares about this kid, but he thinks about what they went through together, going to Titan and on Titan. And at one, it's also like he's a full grown man, and he says to the movie, he goes, "I always forget that under that mask, you're just a kid." And
Mhm.
in the moment, he says it a little bit like to belittle Peter,
Mhm.
but in a way, it is also like you are a kid. Like even me right now, like Peter's a high school senior in this movie. It's like you're young, like, and I can feel for you.
Mhm.
So that, and he even says like we've used it for less, and it is also taking from a story in the comics called One Moment in Time, where Doctor Strange does a similar thing.
Mm.
But
Yeah,
I
and I
I don't necessarily think personally. I'm not here
Mhm.
to disagree with you, but I don't personally think the action was out of Doctor Strange's character. There were a few ways in which he acted, but not that action that felt weird. The way he was wording stuff, the way he was moving around and stuff, like something felt off.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like the premise of how we get to said events happening was weak, in my opinion. In the first 45 minutes to an hour, however long it takes to get to that scene where Aunt May dies, pretty much right before that, like right when it all starts going down, when all of them start fighting and all that. Like that's the moment where the movie gets like it just ramps up for me, and I really do love the fan service that is done right in this movie. Like I love everything on screen. It made me realize that just from this small little like thing that I ingested this movie, that Andrew Garfield might be my favorite Spider-Man.
Can
He
we?
might not have my favorite movies,
But
but
he
he
might
might
be
be
your
my
favorite
favorite
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
I
Is
was
it?
talking to
Mhm.
Aaron about this before, where like he loved that role and got
Yeah.
screwed over, and not even in a the script wasn't that good enough for him screwed over. Like there were other behind the scenes actions that actively ended up screwing him over. Which is very disappointing because he loved playing that role, and I think he was the happiest to put the suit back on.
And then, because when I think back to the Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2, I don't really remember them fondly. Like, I remember what happens, I remember the key events, and that's about it. But then the moment where he catches our
And
MJ
oh my
at the
god.
bottom, and you see him like start to tear up, and like Alec, I think it was Alec who brought up closure, and like I didn't think that would hit me. I started tearing up. I was like, "Holy shit!" And then, but this is one of those things where it was such a good scene. I was like, "Damn, Andrew Garfield can act." Like
Well,
instead of being like, "Oh my god," like the character, I was just like, "Look at him act! Look at him go!" Like I was so into the
well, I mean,
scene. I
if
loved
we
it.
were to take every single thing Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland have done,
Mm.
I don't think it is a question that Andrew Garfield is the strongest actor amongst the three of them, and he's only proving it
Mhm.
more this year with Through the Eyes of Tammy Faye and Tick Tick Boom. But I mean, if you go back to Social Network as well, like
Yeah.
very good actor.
Yeah.
I did get the vibe that I feel like two different things. I feel, and this was all implication, that Toby's Peter, it was like it's real time, like it is in real time, like from 2007 to when the MCU is at 2024, I think, at
Right.
this point,
Something
or
like that, yeah.
end of 2020. I think it's 2024.
Around there, give or take.
Like whatever, it's real time, like it's roughly 20 years. With
Mhm.
Andrew, I get the feeling that he was pulled out a little bit closer to the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2, just because he says he's like he goes he says I stopped pulling my punches, and he didn't say for a bit or for a while. So that kind of implies that he's still not pulling his punches.
Yeah, it was closer to the event that they were referencing
It
for
is.
him.
Yep.
I also think part of it is Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3 is a mess in some ways. However,
Most.
the way it ends actually does tie up the trilogy. Like it's a mess that we get there, but he gets the closure with Harry. He ends up
Mhm.
getting MJ at the end. He kind of takes on that. I mean, I think this is something that we've seen with the end of all three of their trilogy slash duologies of no matter what happens and how much this screws me over, I will always be Spider-Man. Toby's movies had him narrate that. Andrew's movie showed him getting back up after feeling sad about Gwen's death when he goes to get to the Rhino. Obviously, we see it at the very end of this movie, but I think because Amazing Spider-Man 2 didn't give closure to anything because there was hypothetically supposed to be a third one, that level of closure hits more. Like, there was nothing for Tobey's that I needed to see to be like, that's what was missing. It was nice to hear that him and MJ are together and they have the rough patches and they work it through, but I didn't need to see that same type of moment with him.
Yeah, I still I'm kind of right there with you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think Tobey Maguire's performance or in this was like my least favorite Spider-Man, but it's also been like the most amount of time in between, so like maybe that could be why too.
He's very mellowed out, and I think it's because he is so much older. And to quote John Mulaney, he's grown a beard now to show that time has passed.
Sure.
Granted, though, Andrew could have used a shave too. He had a little stubble going on. But
But yeah, just before we get to Brett, I love the movie. I just think the first 45 minutes to an hour was not like was genuinely bad, but everything else after that, I loved.
I
just think they it felt off to me tonally, and I couldn't stop. Like it kept taking me out of the experience.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I kept being like, it doesn't feel right. Like it just feels off. I don't know.
I want to ask you one quick thing, Austin.
Sure.
You say that it kind of starts to happen when he's beating Goblin. Would you take it as far back as to when Peter's kind of like getting the spider sense, but he doesn't know what it is, and it's because he feels the Goblin taking over Norman? Like, and the second he webs his hand to the, is that not the point for you? Is it the second the fighting starts?
I mean, that might be maybe the defining point is kind of lost in it. It's not really important.
Gotcha.
But the beginning of how we get there, like the first moment I realized like I was paying attention and I started really enjoying it was like when they started fighting for the most part. That was a good scene. I appreciate that scene where like his spider sense is tingling and he's like, this is a really weird feeling. Like I don't know how to explain this, and they're all just like, what's going on? Yeah. I do like that scene. Maybe it is that scene, but yeah. The absolute point is kind of lost to me.
Also, great red herring with them panning to the lizard like a couple minutes before that, where I was like, oh, the lizard's about to go on a rampage, and that's what it is. And turned out, no, he sensed Norman like switch.
Also, am I wrong, or were there only 5 villains?
Yeah,
were there
only
more?
5.
I was
only
expecting 6.
I think the thing is like they didn't want to officially do the Sinister Six like we played, because
Sure.
you could even argue that Sandman wasn't too much of a villain. He just wanted to get the box because he wanted to go back to see his daughter.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, they could have just done like an homage to it, and then had
Yeah,
6 whatever.
and
But,
Doc
yeah.
Ock wasn't a villain up to the point in which Peter puts the chip in him. Because my fear was when Electro goes, no, I don't want this. I want the arc reactor. I thought when he shocked everyone that it was just going to end up frying the chip again. And Doc Ock
I thought that
have
too.
to remake the chip a second time.
I thought that too when like he just got it fixed and then he gets zapped. I was like, oh, here we go again. Like it's a clear weakness.
Yeah, and I feel like that could have worked too, because then at the end, when they're on the Statue of Liberty and they have the cure for everyone, it's like, you know, the second they stick the serum in Marco, or they do the collider with Marco, they stick the serum in the lizard, they put the thing on Electro, they can't do anything. But if they throw the chip on Doc Ock, now they have another member on their team, and I think that would have been a very cool dynamic of let's go after him first because he will help us.
Sure.
All right,
Brett,
before we move on quick, Chance is here, so I'm going to pull him in.
Oh,
Chance.
Oh shit, you scared the fuck out of me.
Chance is a coward and didn't want to be here for my yelling at everyone about how I was right.
Yo, I just didn't want to believe it. I just got to. Are we already set up?
Yeah,
Oh,
we're still rolling.
We've been going,
Okay.
yeah.
I just want to say I didn't want to believe it. Y'all, you, Jordan, carried the torch of positivity through those dark days, and I just want to give you props because I
That's
didn't
not the word
think
I would use.
I would.
I mean, it was more like he was a siren that wouldn't shut the fuck up. But I mean, that was,
No, I think the word you're looking for, Chance, is prophet.
no,
You know, I mean, I'm not, I wouldn't
no.
call myself a god, but I think prophet is acceptable here.
We all know how I feel about religion, and even I think that's blasphemous. Come on, man.
Well, someone out there will believe it.
Okay.
All right. Brett, let's do your general thoughts on the movie, and then Chance will hear yours.
Okay,
Hi, Chance.
awesome. Hey,
Yeah. again, I got to reiterate, I believe this was going to happen. I just, emotionally hedged my bets. But yeah,
Mentally prepared.
mentally preparing. It's like what MJ says. You got to expect
You always
disappointment.
expect disappointment.
Yeah.
You won't be disappointed.
Yeah.
Great line.
No, but yeah, like you, Jordan. Like Spider-Man has been my favorite superhero for, ever since I've been existing. And
Came out of the womb.
precisely. And yeah, like I just had a amazing time with this movie. I felt like it honored the past 20 years of Spider-Man movies in, very literal ways, but also just like thematic ways. Yeah, and then like I felt like it was very true to like the comic book origins of the character, in the sense of like what happens at the end of the movie. And so, because that was one of my like little hiccups with the Holland trilogy or the Holland movies at that point was some narrative stuff that I didn't like,
Yeah.
wasn't super jazzed about. But yeah,
Hold those thoughts because I do want to talk a lot about the ending and kind of some of the big choices this movie made.
yeah. I thought Alfred Molina was great. I thought Willem Dafoe was amazing. Again, as
Willem
Great.
Dafoe, bravo.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like the facial expressions that man can pull off. Listen, he's great as the Goblin. Why the fuck has he not played the Joker yet?
Yo, right? Like that, I was thinking that exact
Mhm.
same thing. Yeah.
Like, I don't
He
mean
has
to
to
sound
have
rude.
fucking a
The
gamer
dude looks like the Joker. Like you
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
gotta put the face paint on him.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought like specifically with Goblin, like, and obviously this was from the Raimi trilogy or the first Raimi movie, but they really like went into like the like mental health aspect of Norman and Goblin and what that actually looks like in like a real world more of a real world context. So I love that. Yeah, it just was such a fun ride. They executed everything as well as they could have. I do agree with Austin that Strange, a little strange. Um, but with like with everything in the MCU, like there might be some future storytelling elements that explain this. Not that that's like an excuse for this movie on its own, but there could be things that explain what happened here.
I
Right.
think
I'm with you. I just think like I shouldn't be leaving the theater being like, I hope they explain this. You know what I mean? Like I should that
That's the
should be the
MCU
thing in the
though.
back of my
That
I know,
is an
Yeah,
but
MCU
like
thing.
I feel like
Yeah.
but the way I'm doing is a negative connotation, not like, ooh, I can't wait for them to explain this because it was like a good weird beat that had me thinking. It was a thing that tonally felt off to me. Like Strange to me, Strange, the MCU Strange we know wouldn't have done the spell at all. Like I don't think he would have done it. And like the relationship between him and Peter seemed rushed. It seemed like there was more love and caring there than what made sense to me from what I've seen of both of them on screen. I understand their time on Titan. I get that. It felt tonally off to me. And the first 45 minutes to an hour felt that way to me until Happy's condo goes to shit.
Yeah.
I will say, we did learn that Stephen Strange is not the Sorcerer Supreme anymore, so maybe that had something to do with his like mental state.
which
Sure.
also
Not
time
enough
out.
for me. Not enough for me, Alex.
Wong is the Sorcerer Supreme now,
It's dope.
but he's spending his time training the Abomination and cage fighting him in like an underground ring. Like I saw Shang-Chi.
That's setting up She-Hulk, I'm sure. That has like it's
I'm just
setting
saying,
him up to be in She-Hulk.
I'm just saying, if I was part of the Sorcerer Supreme Congress, I would probably call for impeachment. That seems very
He did say
responsible.
he did
Dude,
say
it's
he's
a
really
dictatorship.
fucking
There's no
busy.
yeah.
What did he say?
He's a really busy guy, all right? He said he's like, I'm busy with other shit. Like, leave me
It's like,
alone.
your shit is cage fighting.
Again,
So real
and-
quick, I would like to address the Doctor Strange thing. I totally think it is in character of him because this is a spell he's done before, right? And so it's not that big a deal. And then also layer onto the fact that he's super egotistical and like it's like nothing to him, and he's no longer the boss, so he can fuck around, right? Like.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
To me, it made sense. Like, yeah, like him fucking it up didn't, but technically he didn't fuck it up. He still caught it, right? It's Peter that fucked it up in the end. Like, I totally get why people think that, but like to me, this is something that he's done 1,000 times. So like, why would this time be any different?
I
understand what you're saying. I just think like the way him and Peter reacted and like the way the dialogue plays out as the reason as to why they go and do it. Like he feels sorry for Peter in a sense.
Yeah.
That does not make sense to me. Like if that alone is the sole reason he does this spell that he knows can fuck up the entire reality. Like I understand he has an egotistical thing. I get that, but like relating that to him helping Peter because he feels bad for Peter makes zero sense to me. Because
I
like their relationship means there is no relationship there besides like he's a friend from work. You know what I mean? Like there's not a lot there to me. There's no substance there that gets me that point, that escalation in that relationship to doing that spell makes sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. I
I
don't
do
think that would have
think
happened.
I do think we tend to forget that this is a guy who got his powers because he was texting and driving while speeding in the rain. So,
Sure.
Well,
and then
It
and
just
not
feels
that
off character from what we've seen in other movies of Doctor Strange.
well, I also
and
do think the
I
other aspect
disagree.
is
I disagree.
this is the
I
first
do-
time we're seeing Doctor Strange directed by John Watts, and like you tend to lose things like that. Like
that's fair.
one
That's
of
a
the
good
things
point.
about Infinity War that makes it feel so cohesive is like the Russo brothers and their writers wrote the general gist of what the character should say, but like for the Guardians, they called in James Gunn to like workshop their scenes. With Thor, they called in Taika Waititi to like they did that with kind of all the people that they'd never really touched before. And John Watts isn't here doing that. He's not calling. I mean, Doctor Strange has been touched by so many directors at this point because his solo movie and his next movie aren't being done by the same people anyway. So I think, I mean, that's not an in-universe explanation at all. I just think it's something to consider.
Sure.
But
Yeah,
Brett,
it just
what were
felt
you
off,
gonna
it just
say?
felt off to me. I can't defend
Oh,
it.
I was gonna say to bring up what if like his whole episode in What If is like him like being stubborn and arrogant and trying to do something that he shouldn't. And so obviously this what he does in Spider-Man is a little bit different, but
It's like the
I
exact
guess
opposite, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
Austin, I also think that you might be feeling this way because you didn't see the second post-credit scene.
Is that true? Because that's the only thing I haven't seen from this movie.
Uh, I'll-
but no, I'm saying in What If he thinks he can handle all these intense spells and he can't.
yeah.
And then
Yeah,
same
but
thing
that
with
was for
Home.
like genuine love. That's completely different, in my opinion. I think like
Sure,
I
the
think
end
like
goals are
a
the end
There's
goals are
other
different,
types
but
of love. He doesn't have to want to bang Peter to like do
I'm
the
not
spell for
saying
him.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying
but-
like his internal like character is the same in both sequences in my
I don't
opinion.
think so. I
the
disagree.
guy's also like a doctor, which you don't go into that field not like people that are in that field and they see the worst stuff, they get hardened. But I've also heard a lot of them be like, some of the things never get easier. Like there's, I think, an inherent part of him that feels for people. I could be wrong.
yeah,
I could be very,
It was
I could
carry
be
that-
sounding
carry that
very
compassion.
optimistic.
I do
Yeah,
also
I
want to
think-
move on from this point because, like I said, the first 45 minutes of this movie I didn't like, but literally everything else I loved.
No,
so
that's
like I
fine.
don't want to get held
Yeah.
up on that.
Yeah, let's move on.
Chance, what are your general thoughts?
This is the best Spider-Man movie ever made. Like, there's no contest for me personally. Like, this beats out Into the Spider-Verse, like everything. The way that they were able to take 20 years of Spider-Man and make me laugh while I'm crying, and like, I don't know. Like, I'm sure you guys have already run the breath, but being able to tell the differences between the different. Is this spoiler free?
No,
No.
fuck no.
Okay, the difference in the fighting styles of the different Spider-Men, their different strengths and weaknesses, the way that the other two Spider-Men got their redemptions for their like individual character flaws, I feel like really just solidifies this as like the end of 20 years of Spider-Man movies and like just pays homage to everything that came before it. And so to me, that's why it makes it the best movie.
In that sense, it is a perfect film on what it tries to establish and then where it leaves it. I know we're gonna get into that later, Jordan, but like
Yeah.
what everything it does to play homage and then where it leaves our current Spider-Man is, I love that a lot.
I have mixed feelings about that, but before like the other thing I have mixed feelings about, I'm gonna say, is May's death. And
See-
Dude, I love
listen,
that. That
I'm
made
not
it
saying it
perfect.
wasn't a good scene. It was an emotionally moving scene. But and I'm even ignoring the way that this movie ends. You're now leaving this kid like he's always had Aunt May as his rock, and the only other Spider-Man property that has ever broken the mold and killed off Aunt May is the PS4 Spider-Man game. And I think that there are inherent differences in the way they do that because in the PS4 game, he has been Spider-Man for 8 years. He's in his mid-20s. He's like living on his own, working on his own. Like it's not that she's not there for him anymore, but she is no longer like taking care of him in the same way. And that game also kind of established that they wanted to find ways to break the mold. Like even in the design philosophy in their costume, they did that. And then in introducing Miles and Peter in the same universe rather than doing the thing where Peter dies and Miles takes over. Whereas this, I don't know, something about it didn't sit right with me as a good choice to make.
I
Does
think
that
it.
make sense?
Yeah, but I think it's just a stark contrast. And go ahead, Austin.
I mean, you can finish your thought. I really assumed that Happy would die. I
Yeah.
assumed there had to be a death. I assumed it would be Happy. I don't know why, but I
Okay.
just thought it'd be him.
So I've been reading rumors, theories, alleged possible
You
leaks
no
for like a year because I had to. You guys made me doubt myself, okay? And I was like, I need to know.
Yeah, fuck us, right?
And I'll just say this: it lists any character's name ever, and then the word dies in this movie. I've seen it. Like every single person had crossed my mind. Maze had gotten more popular in the upcoming weeks. I was like, oh fuck, I really hope this is something that people are running with. I originally read one that said Ned was gonna die. I don't know how I would have felt about that, like actually thinking about it, but I feel like if I had to pick versus like a best friend dying versus his only guardian, because like if they did this weird thing where like he still had Uncle Ben around, but Aunt May was gonna die and he was gonna be the one to stay, like and they kind of flip flop that. Its idea is that he doesn't have any sort of adult guardian anymore, and then we get into the end of the movie, and he doesn't have anyone anymore, which is again, I
Sad.
feel it's sad. Yeah. But the Aunt May thing, I don't know how I feel about it yet. And honestly, part of this might just be like I'm sad, so therefore I do not like it.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like your immediate response, and it's just stuck with you ever since.
Yeah.
I
Honestly,
like the scene, not like yay,
same.
she's
I'm not saying
dead.
I didn't like the
but,
scene.
like-
I'm not saying it wasn't like heart wrenching. I'm just saying as like a story choice rather than a execute. No pun intended. Execution wise, it was great.
Sure.
I'd say for me, I thought they couldn't, or the PS4 Aunt May death. Like I thought they couldn't outdo that, but man, I think this movie surpassed that. Like this scene just got to me. Like with her, like, oh, she's gonna be fine. I'll be okay. I'll be fine. And then just like you just see her just like lay down there and just like, ugh. Tom Holland, man, he's got some range.
He's got some chops. Remind me? Did he say it's okay? Did he say it's okay to her
No.
near the
No,
end?
she
what
was
was it?
saying.
She was
saying
telling him
I'll be
it's
fine.
okay, like it's okay, I'll be fine. Then, because at the end he was just like, "Come on, look at me." Like he wasn't accepting it.
I know there was a line where he attempted to comfort her and then like doubled back on it and he couldn't. I just don't remember what the line
I think
was.
he tried to be like, "You're gonna be okay," something along like that.
Maybe I'm just misremembering
Mhm.
it, but
Oh darn, we'll have to see it again.
okay.
I'm probably gonna see it again.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
I know I'm gonna see it.
I know I'm seeing it at least one more time.
I'm considering getting the Regal Movie Pass just to see it as many times as I want because they have like a 90-day free trial.
Did anyone
Nice.
else's theaters cheer when
Oh yeah.
when
Very
Ned
loudly.
is doing the thing and then
No.
you see hold on, and then
Oh.
you see the other Spider-Men and then you hear little whispers like and then you
Yeah.
see him running towards and
Okay.
you know and you're like, oh shit.
The second the portal opened, I saw the big eyes and I was like, "Oh, I fucking knew it."
Yeah.
One, I thought that it was Andrew's universe based on the color palette in that one alley.
That's I thought the same thing.
But then Toby's Peter established that no, they were both in this world. My theater cheered. However, I was unapologetically the loudest person in that theater because I was also sitting in the back center. When I booked these seats, I was like, I know where I want to be.
Mhm.
And I mean, I cheered for Matt's appearance, like not as loud.
That okay.
That got me so hard.
Bro, I literally was like looking down into my bucket of popcorn, and because and like that scene cut like so fast, it was like,
Yeah, dude.
They're like boom, Matt Murdock, and I'm like, whoa, what?
Dude,
Dude, honestly-
second I saw the walking. Is that what it's called? The walking stick? I don't know.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I was like,
In the cane.
oh, the walking cane. Yeah.
I have no idea what was even said in that scene because I was just too dumbstruck.
Everyone was
B,
cheering.
B,
Everyone
the
was
theater
cheering.
would not shut up and
My
like
theater-
see, like, because he.
Go on.
Go ahead. Just like everything he did, they kept cheering, and like I'm not mad about it, but it seemed like I don't know how they got out of their legal trouble. It seems like they explained
They
it fine
didn't.
enough, but
He basically went like, listen, there is nothing there is nothing actually here that will stick.
Nothing
It's just-
tangible.
But he says something. He was like, the problem is though. He goes, you may have avoided court, but there's still the court of public opinion.
Mhm.
He then turns to Happy and goes, however,
Yeah.
if they're investigating
I
stomach
heard this-
injuries, you need a good lawyer.
However,
like a really
you're
good lawyer.
fucked.
I heard that
Basically.
part. I just didn't hear the Peter explanation. I was just
I
And
saw
then
those
there's
glasses.
the brick that comes through, and he catches it, and they go, "How'd you?" He goes, "I'm a really good lawyer."
love that. Might be my favorite line. There's a lot of good lines in this movie. That might be my favorite.
Here's
But-
my thing though: is me and Leanne had speculated that She-Hulk was going to be Matt seeing this happen and going to She-Hulk and going, there needs to be a lawyer for superheroes. But now that he doesn't remember Peter, like that's not going to be
Well,
what happens.
Maybe he
Yeah,
still has
but
maybe he still
everybody
has the
doesn't-
idea.
Because
Yeah.
everybody remembers Spider-Man. He might remember, oh, I defended Spider-Man in
He
court.
might, he might not even need that. Like that idea, like Inception. That idea might be incepted already in his brain. Where he so like maybe as soon as that spell happens, he's like at the door about to talk to her, and he's like, I kind of forget that aspect of it. But regardless, we need to have
We need
lawyers.
a lawyer
You know
for
what I mean?
superheroes.
Yeah.
So actually, to prove that point, Ned and MJ would not be friends without Peter, right? They're still friends after
Yeah.
this. After he gets wiped out. So
And
like
J.
the
Jonah
idea of
Jameson talks about Spider-Man.
yeah, but I just mean like the ideas of something happening because of Spider-Man, like two things coming
Yeah.
together. The idea of Matt Murdock and She-Hulk talking about
True.
superhero lawyers, like that idea is
Because
already there.
that's the other thing is like they did not retcon Spider-Man out of the MCU. People forgot who Peter Parker was. Like Thor and Doctor Strange remember Spider-Man being there. Just in their mind now, he never took off his mask.
So you were talking about how you don't like how Aunt May died, right? And so one thing that I actually think is a positive about this is that nobody knows who he is, and that like that is like how it is a majority of the time, is that like his name's not written down anywhere in Shield. Like there's like maybe a handful of people who know who he is, and this allows us to go back to that. Like too many people knew who
Yeah.
Spider-Man was, and now we get to get him into the area where like he's on his own. He's like he has his identity still very much intact, and now he can build his life
So-
more.
Yeah, if we want to start talking about the end, like I feel like we've reached that natural point.
That suit is so
before,
cool.
before we get there, just literally like 2 seconds. The favorite line, I know I just said there was a favorite line, but my fiance, poor girl, she doesn't watch the MCU, and she's like, oh, a Spider-Man movie. I was like, okay, you can come. Like I knew this wasn't gonna work for her, but this is one of the most convoluted movies. If you don't know what you're going into, I literally kept looking to her, and she was just like,
Me and Leanne had
He
to
didn't
start.
ca- she had no
podcasts
idea.
describing the MCU, so our other friend can watch this one movie.
yeah, she had no fucking idea, not a chance for her to understand this movie. But she laughed one time. She literally almost fell asleep, but she laughed one time, and that's Ned's line of saying, "Cure some ass." That's what got her. I'm like, yes. So
I'll say
I had
one
to
of
say
my
that.
one of my favorite lines was when Toby got her. He's just like, "Yeah, I've been stabbed before. I'll be fine."
Yeah.
or when they all showed up and Toby had just like street clothes on.
Yeah.
And Andrew
Yes.
Garfield was like
Youth
he was like
pastor.
a youth pastor.
Are you gonna fight looking like a cool youth pastor? I lost.
That was good too.
And then,
Yeah, I
yeah,
thought-
well, because I was wondering, I'm like, okay, Garfield's in the guard, but again, like you said, Jordan, like it kind of hints at where each character is at in their life, where like Andrew's like involved in his role as Spider-Man, whereas Toby is like more mellowed out. He's like a more seasoned Spider-Man. But yeah, but then he
is
pulled down.
still Spider-Man. He even says,
Yeah,
"I
yeah.
don't have time for Peter Parker stuff," which is a
Yeah.
whole thing in the comics of him having to split his time. And again, Andrew is still on the younger side. Like, if I was to make like a comparison right now, is like Andrew is like currently where the Peter Parker that died in Spider-Verse is at.
Yeah.
Like he's in his mid-20s, or he's like in PS4 Spider-Man. Like he is in that era, which is honestly an era of Spider-Man that I'm seeing more of and I'm really starting to like. And I think what's interesting now is we're kind of going to see a melding of that with Tom's. But do you want to talk about more hype moments, or do you want to talk about the end?
I want to.
Can I
Okay.
mention how much they leaned into Toby's Spider-Man, just having it in his
Yeah.
wrist?
Yes.
I
I
love
love that.
anytime they bring that up.
It had to happen, and I'm happy it did.
Yeah.
They leaned into it.
No, it
I-
didn't have to happen, but they made it great. Like
Yes.
that's the thing is they chose to address
Chance,
it.
how could it not have happened?
They could have totally skimmed over it. Like I
They
don't
just
know.
not
I-
discussed it.
yeah,
See,
like
I was
they could
happy
have
with
put
just the scene.
interaction.
I was
they
happy
could
with
have
just
put
the
the
scene.
in-
Yeah, go ahead.
I forgot what I was gonna say. Go.
Sorry, my bad. I was just gonna say I was gonna be happy with just the scene of them like mentioning their web shooters like in the school, but then we got the scene at the Statue of Liberty when they were
Yeah.
waiting
Yeah.
for the enemies. Like
And they're like,
they saw all
So
the
wait.
memes, they knew we wanted it.
how does it work? And he's like, I don't know. Like I didn't study it. It just happens.
Does it come out of
Web
anywhere
lock.
else?
when I loved the line when Garfield's Peter was like, it's like it's such a process to like create the web fluid and create all it's like and
Trying to make him feel better about it.
Toby's like, yeah, I don't have to deal with any of that. And then also that like it's literally like that 2-second battle between Andrew and Toby. Oh my god, like
I was gonna
Oh,
say
yeah.
like it was
That was
like a
incredible,
Spider-Man
dude.
Western. There's like
yes,
you
that was
gonna-
so
you gonna do it?
sick.
I
Oh
do.
my
This
gosh.
brings me up to two things I want to say. One, I'm so happy they took that trope of every time superheroes meet each other, they have to fight each other, and just they're like 5 fucking seconds, guys. Like no, because like okay, we see it in Avengers, we see it in Age of Ultron, we see it in Justice League, we see it in Batman v Superman. Like we've seen it in fucking everything where a superhero meets another superhero.
Mhm.
I also like how wholesome the three of them were together.
It was
Andrew
lovely.
saying "I love you guys" and then
Like
being
brothers,
like,
yeah.
"Yeah, thanks." Like it
Here's the thing is-
broke me.
I also liked the awkwardness because one, I think everybody would be awkward with themselves.
And
Oh, yeah.
Peter's
Peter
already
Parker
inherently
would be awkward with himself a whole lot.
I also
Yeah.
really like the scene when Andrew first gets there and he's like, or MJ is like, prove it,
yourself.
and he does the thing where he's just hanging from the ceiling from like his 4 fingers or whatever.
You
Yeah.
want
He's
more?
like, and he's
you
like,
gotta do more. You gotta
are you
He's
shitting me?
like, he's like, it's like it's not necessary.
Grab
He's
the
like,
cobweb.
He's like, I have the tingle. It just doesn't work for bread.
What was okay? There was a moment between Ned's like Nana or mom and Tobey
Grandma.
Maguire's Spider-Man,
Yeah.
and I don't
Yeah.
understand what that was.
Yo, I loved it though. I don't care what it
Wait,
was.
did
The
she think
grandma
he
just
was,
thought
like,
he was.
hot?
Yeah, she was
Oh, yeah,
definitely
she gave him a
into
look.
it, dude.
She
Like,
gave
she
him
looked
a
him
look.
up and
and
down.
he liked it.
Yeah, he's like,
He's like, hey.
yeah, he wasn't like mad. Maybe that's why it's
Also-
complicated with MJ.
Ned is a sorcerer.
yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
Well,
but like,
okay,
mentioned
that's
that
the thing. That's the
magic's in
thing
his
about
family.
that's the thing about Doctor Strange is like anybody inherently can learn that. You just have to open yourself up to
But
it.
I think
yeah,
it-
but he did it by accident. So that
Well,
like,
I think he has two things above him that made it easier from when Strange was learning, even though Strange is the greatest. Strange's hands were physically still hurt, and Strange still was comprehending that magic existed. Ned was like, I've been told magic exists in my family.
I've seen some shit. Like,
and
Well,
I also feel like I know Strange.
yeah, but he's also watched Doctor Strange do shit. Like he knows
That
that it's
too.
yeah, like
that too. So, but I also think that there is like that natural ability with it, which I really liked. But I also like I don't know how to close it. Like he is still a novice.
yeah.
And Doctor can be like, did you just open a portal? And he's like, he doesn't say, but he's like, noted. We'll get back to that.
Yeah.
thank you, Cape Sir.
Also, I totally forgot this because Ned hints at the line and like I'm not gonna turn evil, but his name is like the name of one of the hobgoblins.
One of
in
the hobgoblins
Yeah.
is Ned Leeds. Ned Leeds in the
Yeah.
comics is okay. This Ned Leeds in name is Ned Leeds, and his character design and his characterization, he is Ganke from Miles' friend. He has the same
Mhm.
look and very similar mannerisms. So they've kind of meshed the two together. And yeah, so there was the hint at the whole hobgoblin thing because they mentioned the new
Well, wasn't
goblin.
that like a rumor that like the dude on the glider, we know
gonna
that
be
his
Ned.
screen, yeah, with like
Yeah.
the thing over his head. That's what I thought I had seen online. Anyway,
See, now I'm wondering if like not foreshadowing per
He
se.
turns
but,
he
like,
turns evil now that he doesn't know.
if something
Peter.
happens down the line, now that they're kind of establishing him, like
Mhm.
he's getting powers at the very least.
Yeah.
Also,
But if he doesn't know Peter, how would
Yeah, and if like he secretly likes Peter and he got or MJ and he got jacked because he is going to be jacked in the next movie.
When
He's
Ned
lost-
came in at the end and they're having this moment together, I was like, "Oh no! Like, are they together? Like, with
I
if
don't
she
think
doesn't meet,
so.
I know, I don't think so either. But like, there was a moment, you know what I
You
mean,
see-
where I was like, eh.
And that's the brilliant thing is like now like if they are dating it makes sense because of that scene like and then it's plants the seed of like oh if they become friends and then MJ like somehow remembers and Ned's pissed about it like it would make sense why if he
Maybe.
became Hobgoblin there'd be a divide there over
God
MJ.
damn it, he's right. He's right, everyone.
Well, so here,
right there.
the other thing is about if MJ could someday remember. Well, actually, no, because again, this is going to lead us right into a conversation about the
It's
very ending. So
It's like
last
she had her own little spider tingle at the end there. She was like, there's something up about this guy.
was it like a sneeze, but down there?
I think that's just like good intuition like,
Spider tingle. There was a line too when he has the suit inside out and he's fighting Electro and they're like yelling at him. He's like, "Oh, someone's here. Something's going on." He's like, and MJ's like, "Is your tingle tingling? Is it your tingle?" I was like, "That's funny, that's good."
Which this I was gonna say this movie is probably the best Holland movie of like Spider Sense ever, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Oh, I mean,
Well-
when he got in his astral form, we saw the thing they do in the comics. With,
That
like,
was
the
dope.
squigglies. Yeah.
Oh, I
yeah,
didn't
his
notice
spider
that.
sense- Yeah, when he's in his astral
I didn't
form,
notice that.
it's kind of all blurry. But if you look around his head,
It was subtle.
Yeah, the things that in the comics and in
Good to
TV
know.
and video games they do with the spider sense, like that shape was there.
Mhm.
And yeah, and the fact that the spider sense is truly just like more of a physical
A
reflex. So that's why
reflex. Yeah.
he didn't have to be in there.
So cool.
Do you
But-
guys actually think Doctor Strange was in the mirror dimension for 12 hours? Because I fucking don't.
If he said it, yeah, I believe it. I believe
Yeah.
anything that man says.
I do want
But you
to
don't think that he would have done the spell even though he went, I want to do the spell.
I
He didn't really blatantly say that, did he?
because remember in Doctor Strange the movie they make the point like multiple times about like if you get stuck in the mirror dimension like you could be like F.
You could be
like,
fucked.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so-
without your sling ring.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he lost it, but obviously he's just resourceful and powerful enough that he was able to overcome that. It just took him a little while, so I buy that.
No, but I
Yeah.
mean, part of it was Neb. What I'm saying is like, I don't know. I feel like he wasn't truly just dangling there for 12 hours. I feel like he's better than that.
No,
I don't think he was
there for 12
dangling,
hours.
but he was stuck in
he was
the
stuck in the
mirror
mirror
dimension.
dimension.
I don't think he was like dangling over the Grand Canyon, like he said, for 12 hours, but I think he was in the mirror dimension
And
for
then
12 hours.
after that fight, Peter's like, I just fought Doctor Strange and I totally won. I beat his ass.
Yeah.
Look, I
He
got his ring
did.
thing.
Which in-
I got his ring thing.
Which in and of itself is like so awesome about the MCU is
Yeah.
like it's almost like this rock paper scissors of superheroes where they can kind of like one can best this one but not that one, but that one can best this one anyway. It's
Also,
like the
Brett,
UFC.
You said this was the best Spider-Man film for like Spider Sense. I would say
Or
like
Holland,
well,
or Holland.
or-
I think there's
okay,
some
okay.
moments in
but
Raimi's
the
movies
ending
that
of Far From Home, I think, is like
Well,
the
I think
epitome
I feel
of
like we
that.
couldn't have this without that.
Agreed.
Like
Because
Far From Home was
didn't we have a moment where the Far From Home thing is better than Avengers Assemble or whatever?
So I would argue with
that
this
was the
Spidey-
difference between a hype moment and a character moment. I think.
Sure,
was the
but I'm just saying,
consensus.
like that is a moment, is what I'm saying.
for me with the Spidey sense, like the scene from Far From Home was awesome. It just visually was so convoluted for me of him dodging like all the CG stuff in Far From Home, whereas specifically
These scenes
the
were
scene-
more intimate. They're more internal about him internalizing said Spider Sense. I see what you mean.
specifically the scene with Norman where he like
Yeah.
he's just trying to figure it out. Like that
Yeah.
that hit for me more than like him flipping in a tunnel with CG stuff flying at.
One's more dope, one's more intimate. I kind
Sure,
of
sure.
follow what you're
Yep.
getting at.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you're right. That's a good
Yeah.
point to bring up.
All right,
Ending time.
So the end.
Oh, hold up! I want to bring something up, and
Hold
we
up.
probably should have talked about this before. But what was everyone's theaters experience? Because that's a huge part of seeing a movie is like everything around it, like going to the theater. Like, what
Right.
was everyone's process for that? I'm so
People
curious.
cheered for when they saw Spider-Man and the orbs for the first time, like when Ned opens it. People cheered. My fiance was not having any of that. She was like, "People are weird." And in my theater, I
And
just
at
have
that
one.
moment, you took the ring back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have-
That was deserved.
in that moment, or scratch that from the record. I need to stop going to this theater because it's seeing Shang-Chi, I mentioned that how it was dark and I couldn't see what was happening when they're like fighting on the scaffolding. This movie is fucking dark. I couldn't see shit in this movie. I think it's the theater I'm going to. I need to go to a different theater.
That sucks.
Is
Yeah,
it
that's
what
fine.
like? Is it like what kind of theater? Is it just a normal theater?
I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
Marcus
Yeah.
Theaters. That's all I know. It's a Midwest thing. I don't fucking know. They have nice seats.
Nice.
I mean, makes everything
you-
a nice seat at a movie theater.
So if there's a really bright movie that you want to be comfy at, go to Marcus Theater.
I don't want to be like. I don't want to be like that. I don't know.
So we get to the movie a little late, and there's a woman who has gotten
Just like this
4
podcast. Sorry.
children slushy. Yep, I'm constantly late. There's 4 little children slushies in like the little carrying things, right? And so she's holding that with one hand, and then she has a large popcorn and a soda somehow construed with the other hands, and then she still has 4 cups of water she's trying to waddle back with to her freaking her
jeez.
theater. She was sitting like just standing there trying to like figure out how to do this, and they finally got some people to help for like, I shit you not, 7 minutes.
Why didn't you
And
help?
I'm gonna be
Chances of
real.
watching,
She was
like,
a
I
Ka-
just wanna s-
she was a Karen, and I was waiting next in line to
Right.
get my food. I only have hands for my drink and my food. I'm sorry, lady. You should have planned this better. Where's your husband? I know you had kids. I saw
Where he
them.
at? Where he at?
So get our food, get into the theater. Unfortunately, very close to the front. But I will say the theater experience of everybody in there, amazing. Matt Murdock, both the Spider-Mans, the end, people clapping constantly, like just like at the right times. Like it was what you wanted out of this experience. It was chef's kiss. And I cried a lot.
Yeah,
That's it.
mine was pretty similar. Like my friend, he bought the tickets, and we got great seats, a little further back in the theater, but it's right in the center, so perfect spot to watch.
Same.
But yeah, I cheered right at the times. I feel really bad for personally because I had like a kernel like kind of stuck in my throat, so I was like coughing quite a bit during the middle. But
Were you like trying really hard not to? Like
yes, but it was one of those like
I've
it was
been
there.
there.
It was
I've
there.
been
Like
there.
I needed to cough. Like
you're like I can't be this guy, but I have to be like every 10 minutes. Like I can't. I'm holding back as much as I can.
But I eventually did get it. Like there's whatever it was unstuck. So,
Thank God.
but man, that bit there's like the middle. So I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was. I know it was in the middle, towards the middle of the movie. But yeah, the cheering it was great. This is what I love about going to theaters like for big MCU movies opening night.
Oh yeah, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. I should probably go to a better theater for the record. But you guys are all mentioning crying, and I went in this movie expecting like I would feel nostalgic, but I wouldn't get emotional. And I mentioned this before you're here, James, but the Andrew Garfield moment where he catches our MJ, and he's there, and he has a sense of closure, and he starts to tear up. That's the moment where like I started to tear up myself, and I'm like, that's surprising to me. Like I don't do that. But more so, it wasn't necessarily like, oh my god, I actually like Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. I think Andrew Garfield is the best Spider-Man, just his movie sucks. But I was like, Andrew Garfield can fucking act. I said this before,
Yo.
James, but I want to say that again because he's an actor. Like this man. mwah.
For sure. And just like, I don't know if it's already been talked about. I just want to go on a little spiel real quick because I also agree. Like, I do think that he, for my money, like it is heartbreaking to know that like he was who the MCU wanted for Spider-Man, but it just didn't work out, right? Because I do feel like Tom Holland is an amazing Spider-Man, but like Andrew Garfield was the amazing Spider-Man, and he just personified it so well. And seeing what he can do with MCU writing, with just like the way he interacts with MJ and Ned when they're like, dude, crawl across the, and he's like, no. And like the way he says no, and then the way he like, just his whole mannerisms throughout and how distinctly different he is from the other ones. And then the I don't know if it's just like my emo roots or some shit, but just like the way like he carries that burden of Gwen and all of that shit and just
Toby says the line like you're amazing.
He's like, say it.
Yes,
You're
You're
and
amazing.
yeah.
It's so wholesome. Also,
I love that.
and I'm going to be very clear. I am not saying how they look. I am saying the look that Toby kind of had on his face the whole movie. And the way he came out and was speaking had the same exact energy as like the video that Steve from Blue's Clues made a few months ago.
I see what you mean. But I was
Yeah.
actually shocked because Tobey Maguire, in my opinion, like he was the weakest Spider-Man. Say what you will, we can topic for another discussion. I still think he's a good Spider-Man. I just think of the 3 tiers, he's the lower one.
You didn't say he was bad. You
But-
just said he was the weakest.
Yeah, exactly. But he did seem like out of all 3 of them, he came in and he felt like the seasoned Spider-Man. He felt like he knew his shit. He felt like he was just there having a good time. He was relaxed, and then he's cracking his back. And then they
Yeah.
Big,
My back.
Can we
big
talk
Peter
about
B.
the-
Parker vibes.
Yes.
From Tom.
Yo, I was thinking the exact same thing, dude. Oh my
Can
god.
we talk
Mm-hmm.
about like the fan service that also happened with like the memes of him going my back and being like, oh, you have a middle back thing here, let me crack it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that whole thing.
And
then-
Andrew Garfield would be that Spider-Man that knows how to do that back crack. Like, you know, that's the guy. Like that
Yes.
out of all the Spider-Man,
'Cause
that's the
that's-
one that knows.
Everybody in high school around like the time, it's like was doing that. Like,
Well, or you had the one friend that knew how to do it really
Exactly.
good, and like
In high
Andrew
school,
Garfield is that friend. Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be like, oh, it didn't
Yeah.
work because they didn't add a cracking effect.
Oh no, there was
Oh, I
one.
didn't hear one.
There was. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I,
He,
I,
like-
I expected there to be like crack, like a comic crack, like Spider-Verse stuff. But I
So
was also
it-
surprised that they didn't do the whole like, that thing. Like they didn't. Do
Oh,
that.
Oh,
they kinda
yeah.
It was
did.
in the
They kinda
credits.
did.
It was in the credits.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
kinda-
there was a drawing of it in the credits, but somebody said that they had a moment of that
in the lab.
I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
notice it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it-
when
it was-
Ned was saying Peter, 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 they were like,
Oh.
"Oh, this
that
one."
was funny.
Yeah,
That wasn't
Uh,
100%. But it-
Parker, Peter Parker. We're
Like,
all
they're-
Peter
they're
Parker,
all-
Ned.
And then they had to be like, okay, I'm Spider-Man 1, you're Spider-Man 2.
Oh, Peter. Yeah.
Spider-Man
yeah.
3.
Oh, sorry.
Peter,
Peter 1,
Peter 3.
Peter 3.
Shout out to Andrew Garfield's Peter for holding down Peter 3, bro. Someone's
Peter
got to
3,
someone's got to
let's
be
go.
Peter.
Yeah.
Someone's got
Even
to
though
be
I
Peter.
He could have taken that the wrong way, and he just like owned it. He's like, all right, like.
In the moment, he's like, "I'm Peter 3. Let's go."
We're
come
gonna
on."
have
Yeah.
code names. You're amazing, you're spectacular, and you're superior. Boom, boom, we did it.
I always
Sensational.
loved how Andrew Garfield was just like, I made the cure once for the lizard. I got this.
Yeah.
They kind of
Yeah.
Just so nonchalant.
Yeah.
Also, there was moments where it seemed like they wanted to one up each other, and then they didn't, and they're like, "That's good. Like, good for you, man." Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
They were the
Here's the
best
thing.
team. The best team.
I
Oh,
have
yeah.
been, I've said this before. Spider-Man is the Star Wars of comic characters, where any opinion you have is gonna get people mad, and
Oh,
Spider-Man fans
100%.
are constantly fighting with Spider-Man fans. And I think this movie was like their way of being, "Shut the fuck up.
Oh,
You're all
100%.
Spider-Man
Yeah.
fans, and let's just be happy that we have all of them." Because I mean, and I've said this before, and this movie I think only proves it more. Each iteration has done some stuff so well, and done some stuff so poorly. And I'm talking from interpretations of Peter, interpretations of Spider-Man, story beats, thematic beats. Like each of them have their own pros and cons, and we should be happy to have all of them. We should be happy to have all of them in one movie.
You want to know something really funny? Just real quick. You said all of them have pros and cons. The first pro that popped in my head from Tobey Maguire's was Green Goblin's fat ass. Like that's the first
Yeah.
thing that popped in my head of
That-
all things.
That
Damn,
thi-
Gobby, what you doing out here with all that ass? Double cheeked up on a Thursday.
Anyway,
afternoon.
we
I
should
wa-
probably get. We
Well,
should probably
we're
get to
talking
the
about the
ending.
memes.
Yeah. Let's talk about the ending.
Oh
But-
yeah.
He said, "I'm
Oh, sorry,
something
go-
of a scientist myself."
Yes.
The fact that they put that in there.
But like, just to call back to the first thing he ever said to Peter Parker, like, because isn't that what he says like the first time they meet? In the first movie, he says that outside the
Wait,
museum.
I'm just realizing that's
He
maybe
just-
the first time they meet, because him and Harry have been friends for a while.
Yeah, but that is the first time they meet, and then he says
the
it to this.
movies.
Yeah, in the
Yeah,
movie.
yeah, no,
Sure.
yeah, that is the. Yeah, you're right. It's just clicking with me that that's the first time they met. When it's like he's supposed to be Harry's best friend, and at the end he's like, "I'm a father to you." It's like I met you 6 months ago.
Yeah, yeah. All right. And sorry,
Brett?
what were you gonna say, Brett?
I was gonna just say my theater experience of like.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No. I've been loving this conversation. It's been incredible. But yeah, like I think Jordan saw the picture of like there was like 20 dudes and girls, a lot of Spider-Gwens too, like dressed
Oh
up
yeah.
at my theater.
Oh yeah, I
so
saw that
just-
picture.
It was just such an awesome environment to be around. I just had my Spider-Man t-shirt. I was like, damn, I should have like stepped up my game a little bit. Everybody cheered at my theater. I took a friend who's like not plugged into the MCU as much as like We are, and he was like, "Yeah, I've never been in a theater where they've cheered before." I was like, "Yeah." I'm like,
Oh, honey.
I was
Yo,
like,
this was
First time, like the noose.
yeah."
First time.
I was like, "Yeah, this is what happens for this kind of movie, and especially Spider-Man, where like I was explaining, like everyone kind of knew the rumors, and so, but it was just like, was it going to happen? How are they going to execute it? Things like that. And
I feel
so,
like this was the worst kept secret in Hollywood.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
But I think Marvel enjoyed that being a thing, because if
All things
Marvel,
considered, they did pretty well, I would say.
Yeah,
Oh,
I was
yeah.
gonna.
no.
The lion's share of people I know didn't think that they were going to be in it.
Like
Yes,
I,
and
I was genuinely 50-50. Like
Yeah,
I was
like,
like,
I
if they're
did-
there,
Same.
it could be like a 2-minute cameo. I
And-
don't know.
And then I also think it's like this movie being in like that weird rights thing, like it gets touched by more people having to go through Marvel and Sony than if it was just done by Marvel in-house. But what I mean is, like, I think if Marvel was like, listen, we don't want people to know, so we are putting our foot down and we are getting agents or press people to be like, you are not allowed to ask about this, for Andrew on his press tours for like Tick Tick Boom and Tom on his press tours for this movie. Or if they weren't in the movie and they were like, we cannot let people get their hopes up, and again, put their foot down and be like, you don't ask about this. I feel like they realize, hey, listen, no press is bad press, and like making the whole debate of a will they or won't they appear in it, and like, hey, you have to go to the movie to find out.
It was definitely a benefit. Don't get me wrong.
I don't think they would have pushed it this far and let people like keep playing with the idea if they hadn't. I don't think they would let people like walk in with like very high, like as high hopes as they did if they weren't in the movie,
Do you know?
because they let people have really high hopes for that.
What was that Andrew Garfield quote like a few months
I'm
ago?
not
where
the
he,
werewolf.
where he was like, these movies like
bitch.
these. Where he's like, these movies are causing the demise of like global warming or something. He like had some like huge quote about like,
Oh jeez.
or like these movies are just soulless, things like that.
No, it wasn't. He
I
said
ha-
something
Again,
about,
again,
like,
great actor. Like Austin said, he really sold it on that.
he
on
said
that
something
quote.
along the lines of like,
Yeah, because obviously
I'm
that's
trying
not
to
the way
remember
he
how
feels. Like,
I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember how he connected the two, but he was at one point went on to this thing about like the whole fucking world's burning down and we should all be upset about it. Which we
Mhm.
should, but that's for a different time.
We should get into the
Um,
ending.
Okay.
yeah, let's.
Quick. Just two things. One,
Sure.
the person who edited that Brazilian trailer, they're probably fired.
You fucked up.
No, they did that on purpose.
Was
I
that-
100. I
Is that
100%.
the one where the lizard got like his
Yeah,
neck?
they
got
got
all
the
fucked
two
up
extra
or whatever?
frames from the trailer
Here's
that
the
we
thing.
had.
Here's the thing. If I never saw that trailer, I still saw the shot where you just see 3 of them
True,
and then one
true.
in the middle. I was like, okay,
Agreed.
there's
Yes.
at least. But I was like, maybe that's Doctor Strange and someone else. Like, maybe it's not them. But I feel like, I was like, knowing Marvel and knowing the MCU, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't go that far to trick people. But yeah.
I
Also,
totally
I'd
think
talk
that
about
they
my
leaked
theater
that one on
experience.
purpose.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My theater experience was I chose, and I told my friends, I was like, listen, I will be the one to drive if you guys do this. I want to go to the IMAX theater because I need to see more Spider-Man. I need more space. I need that aspect ratio, bruh.
Hear that
So
aspect.
that aspect ratio, like get some
Hey.
spider butts going on. So I drove like 45 minutes away. It took up like a chunk of my night because I was like, we are leaving early. We are meeting up. We'll get food. So we went to an Applebee's before because why not? We went to this AMC. I bought just a large soda just to sip on throughout the movie. And I fill it up at like the Coke Freestyle thing. And I'm looking around and I'm like, there are no caps left for this. Like there are no lids at all.
Oh
So I
jeez.
go up to one of the
Oh
guys
my-
and I'm like, hey, there's no lids. And he's like, and I feel so bad for this guy. I don't mean to sound like entitled. And he's like, okay.
Mhm.
And then he's like still doing people's food and getting their pizzas and stuff. And I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And then eventually he goes to someone. And then my group of friends are looking at me and I'm like, I don't know. But like, the guy, like, he goes to one cabinet, like, I guess under where they keep the things. No lids. He goes to the next one. No lids. I'm like, dude, am I going to just have to raw dog this string? Because I don't like that. I don't know if that's the right phrasing. I don't know if that's
It's
what
not.
you're awing
For the
about.
record, definitely
Going-
not.
it's accurate,
commando.
though.
Going
Yeah.
commando.
Yeah.
What I meant to say is I don't know if Chance
Also
made that
wrong.
at the idea of it or the phrasing, but
No, just how accurate I feel like that is to
Yeah.
like walk
But then-
around without a lid.
but then he found one and the guy wasn't even looking at me. He was just refilling them and he took out the giant bag. And I was like, hey, can I just get one from him? He's like, oh yeah, man, sure.
I mean, props
Oh
to
my
him. He was clearly doing like 7 things, and he's
Yeah.
still
No,
looking
this
for your
was
lid.
another guy. Sorry, this was he called
Oh.
another guy in to go
Mm.
out
Okay,
to
man.
where the freestyle machines are. But he's trying to like he wanted to just refill the actual pieces. And I was like, hey, can I just like get one like while you're grabbing them? He's like, oh yeah, sure. And like I said, I was in the back row center,
Mhm.
and I was the loudest person. At one point, I cheered so hard when Andrew and Toby came through that by the Statue of Liberty scene where they do that one pose, which is going to become my new desktop wallpaper, I went to
Oh, yeah.
cheer and I looked at my friend Victoria and I went, I lost my voice.
Oh my
Like,
god.
I screamed too much too soon.
Yeah. I saw it in IMAX too, and I made the mistake where my theater doesn't do like reserved seating, so you have to like wait in line. And I messed
Oh.
up. I messed up, and I got there an hour and a half before, and that was like, I don't know if you saw that picture, Jordan. There was like 100 people in front of me. Like I was like super far behind.
Oh,
And
jeez.
so I just sit like in the fourth row. So it wasn't,
Ooh.
which I saw The Last Jedi in the second row of that theater or first row, and I couldn't even. I only could see half the screen. Luckily, fourth row I
Yeah,
could
but like,
see like most of
this
the
isn't
screen.
a movie. This is a movie you actually want to see again.
Yeah, well, with The Last Jedi, that was the first time I didn't know it was about to happen. But with Spider-Man, yeah, I was like fourth row, and then too, I was like, my friend Philip was like, "How long's the movie?" And I'm like, 2.5 hours. I'm like, yeah, like. Don't drink your soda like all in one gulp at the beginning.
no.
Like you gotta like ration out your soda.
I don't
Let's just
I
That's
don't
why
get a
it's-
drink. I get no drink because
Yeah,
I
that's
know
smart. That's smart.
Even
Yeah.
if I go in there and I'm like, I'll have to pee in 20 minutes. Like it's just it's going to happen. So I just don't get a drink.
I
Yeah,
get criticized for often having to run to the bathroom during
Same.
movies.
I
but
feel like
it's
we're all in this together.
I have Crohn's, so like it's a whole different thing. Where like I have tried not to, but I'm like it's this or wear a diaper. So, but my body.
If
I
you were
feel
ever
like-
going to, it was this movie. I'm saying that right
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing.
now. On the record.
I know my body enough that adrenaline overrides the disease because Endgame did not have to do anything. Like my body was like, I got you. Because it's been the same thing on like long drives where like my body doesn't. It's like I know something's more important. It's a very weird thing when you have like IBD and stuff. But I was like, this is good. Like, and
Right,
then, like,
so that ending.
yeah.
Well,
and-
I think
okay.
Alec had one more thing. I think.
One more thing.
I'm sorry.
We made it this long. I want to just give a shout out to Jamie Foxx. He freaking
Oh, yeah.
killed it in this movie.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
He's fine.
being able to make Electro his own, and like I don't know. I just felt like he
You
not having
guys
that
gonna mention
interference
that
from.
I'm butt-ass naked.
That was a good line. That was a good line. It was definitely an improvement. I'll give him that.
Yes, and I think that's the reason I'm so cool with it, and so why I like it so much is because it just was so much better than Blue Electro.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because they just kind of let Jamie Foxx like, hey, this is your character. You do you.
Go ahead.
Like,
Yeah.
Have fun.
he was wearing streetwear when he was like supposed to be wearing like he had like his Timbs on when he had all the reflective gear when he was like in the cell and stuff,
Well,
and
they-
he
they
just
gave him
looked.
it was a firefighter's outfit.
Yeah,
they
but
looked-
he looked like he was wearing a fit, dude. He looked super good.
Right?
Like they just let him be Jamie Foxx,
Yo,
and I
that's how
loved
New
it.
York be though.
Yeah, I'm not like I absolutely loved that part, but
All right.
That ending.
So the end.
The new
I
I
suit.
loved it.
Ooh,
I loved it.
So here's the thing. Marvel, I want to call out a TikTok I saw that was not about this movie, but a few weeks ago I saw a TikTok where a guy was like, people want comic book movies to become like more accurate and stuff. He goes, fine. You know what? Then we got to start retconning shit. You guys want to understand why something happened? You got to go back 5 movies just to find out it doesn't matter in the next movie. Like, let's start retconning shit again, which is essentially what happened here. And I think Marvel realized that they made Spider-Man too big too fast. You know, and that
In the terms of where Peter Parker is,
not
I
big as
agree
I
with
don't
you.
mean big as in fame in the public eye. I mean like what his
what he was
roles
doing,
are
like
as a
what this
dude. Like,
hero.
yeah, like it's like what Daredevil does versus what the Avengers do. And like I know at this point every Marvel hero's been an Avenger at some point, but you guys get what I'm saying. Street
Yeah.
level versus world-ending threats. So I get why they did. It just felt too extreme. And again, is it do I not like the choice, or am I just sad that there's this kid now that has to get his GED because he doesn't get to go to high school? He essentially does not exist except on birth records.
dude, how do you know he even exists on birth records, dude?
Because the people who delivered him can't remember it.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. I had this conversation last night.
Yeah, but-
He doesn't fucking exist, dude.
No,
He's
I
gone
assume
to-
his
Yeah.
paperwork is still there because how else would he have
No,
got?
Who
how?
filled it out? They
The
don't
people
remember.
who were writing that would be like, who is this for?
He
I don't know
never
why it
existed.
turned into
They
Rocky
wrote it
Balboa
20 years
there.
ago. They wrote it 20 years ago. Also,
But
do you
he
think-
said, make it so Peter Parker never existed. Like that's what he tells.
he said like he never existed.
Which means
Austin,
he.
did you say Rocky Balboa?
Okay, listen.
What happened with that?
I don't know.
How would he have gotten the apartment if he has no form of ID or like he doesn't?
Did you see that
exist
apartment?
legally?
Yeah, dude. Why do you think it's a shitty apartment?
Did it not look like the apartment from the Toby movies?
Thank you.
That's what I was-
I had written
I was-
down.
That is.
I thought it
That
was
is
going
a-
to be like a homage, like
When you
homage to
saw the
that.
door, I was like, "Oh, this looks like the Toby movies." Like, is this about to be the what's his
It's
name?
it's totally
Or
like
Ditkovich.
yeah.
Think of it, yeah. But then when it turned around and I saw the layout, I was like, "Oh, this looks more like the PS4 one."
No, it looks
Ah.
exactly like Tobey Maguire's apartment.
Exactly. Like I.
the scene,
Yeah.
the scene.
Yep.
It might be the end of 2. I don't remember.
The
but
bed's
when,
just on the other
when
side.
MJ
That's
says,
it.
go get it, Tiger."
Yes.
And that is the fucking apartment. I'm telling you right now. It's different coats of paint, but it's the
Yeah.
same fucking place.
And that's like them all like I feel like that anyway, it is 100%. Austin's right.
They brought Peter Parker back down to his core, where he is a street level hero,
Yep.
who does not have, who is making his own stuff, and he's going back to be the average man because he's probably going to be juggling a job and have to pay rent, but also worry about this.
Makes me excited in
But the
like
idea
a
that
weird
he
way.
literally doesn't know anyone. I'm like, you poor bean.
He
Yeah,
knows
but-
everyone. No one knows him.
But what is that like? You can't.
Mhm.
He can't just walk up to be like, "Hey, sup, Flash? Like I'm your best friend." Like even if you wanted to go, like if he's like, "Listen, I'll take what I can get at this point."
About that,
You
when-
are so hung up on the like you. This is this is just crazy to me. Like how hung up on it. Like this poor little boy. It's gonna be resolved by the time the next movie comes. Like
Well, so-
the beginning of the next movie, he's gonna have 6 friends. Like it's not even a big issue.
So here's what I want to point out about. Do you guys think that like Zendaya and Jacob, how do you pronounce his last name?
Babylon or something.
Babylon. That's what I thought, but I was like, that's-
Babylon.
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 T.
Do you think that like? Do you think like they're done? Like they're not going to be in the next trilogy? That they're going to try to do more traditional?
They're going to be off at MIT. I think they.
I
I think
think-
they're done.
I think they're going to MIT, and he's going to go to like NYU or Empire
No.
State.
Mhm.
Empire
or
State.
whatever.
Yeah, I honestly thought that was going to be how it ends. Would be him going to Empire State.
Mhm.
But I do want to point one thing out, and just hear me out. So in
no
Civil
no,
War, when Peter reveals himself to the public and he regrets it, he goes to Doctor Strange to do the same type of spell he did here. But it was successful, where Doctor Strange makes the public forget that Peter is Spider-Man. And then, like a couple years down the line, or at some point, something happens, and there's a newscast, and Peter switches into Spider-Man, and like it gets caught on the back of, like in the very, very background of this news footage. And some people see it. And when Peter asked Doctor Strange about it, he goes, "So here's the thing, like the magic is not foolproof. Those people, because they now saw you turn into Spider-Man, just them remember when you went out during Civil War and everything that happened. So if this spell is to work the same way, hypothetically, if Peter was to introduce himself and then tell somebody he was Spider-Man, they could take that same energy to be like, that's how he gets people to remember."
I hate
Did
it.
did any of that make sense?
No, 100%.
Yeah.
It did, yeah.
So I was hoping, like in my brain canon, that like that's good to know that there is a way for MJ to remember theoretically.
Brain Cannon. My brain went elswhere on that.
Oh,
Like a brain
yeah.
shooting cannon. I don't know why.
Like you have a t-shirt cannon, you have a brain cannon.
Yep. Just my head popping out. So in my head, I thought this next movie was going to be about him going to NYU in New York, working as a freelance photographer. He meets Gwen Stacy. Whatever happens, there happens. And then at the end of the next movie, something happens with him and MJ, and they're reintroduced to each other. And we're left on a cliffhanger of like Spider-Man, what would be 5 is him and MJ kind of like figuring. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that does.
Okay. Yeah. And that, like, in my head, that's how this how I kind of wanted to play out anyway, of just
Who's
like,
the villain?
I don't care.
Well,
Danny
Wow.
Rojas as Venom. All out
Yo.
to the post-credit scene.
Right.
Hell yeah. That's the one scene I did see. Let's go.
Is his name going to be Eduardo Brock?
Oh my gosh.
I do want to say I wanted okay, the scene where Happy and Peter are at the grave of Aunt May.
Mhm.
I wanted because he's like, "Nice to meet you" or whatever. He's like, "Take care." And he's like, I wanted him to be like, "You too, Happy." And then he leaves, but he says his name.
Yes, I did
And then
too.
I wanted Happy to be like, excuse me.
There was
Do I-
also
do I-
a thing about like the way they framed it, and they kept these long pauses that they were gonna do something. Like movies do this sometimes.
Like a
there's that
wink
weird
or a nod or
semblance
something.
that they know each other. I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Little Vampire, where like they're vampires that get turned into humans, and and there's like this whistle that the kid does, and it makes them remember him.
that you just put an idea in my head. What if they do? What if somehow at this point in the story, somehow Happy knows that that's Peter and that he knows everything that's happened, and it's kind of out of time a little bit. Like it's kind of like that
That's what-
scene was shown out. So Happy, something is Peter has established something already, so Happy knows his identity.
Yeah,
And he
like
remembers.
because he is a part of
the way-
Stark.
The way that scene plays out, Jordan, just the way you brought it up, there was something a little weird about it, where there were those pauses. It's almost like they were acting as
No, but-
non-actors. You know what I mean?
But they even had it with Zendaya, where like there were some pauses that went on too
Those were
long.
different. Those were different to
as
me.
if they
I
were
don't
like,
know. That
hey,
one was
hey,
different.
Is there
Yeah,
gonna be a
yeah,
thing
for
where they
sure.
remember?
I thought that Zendaya like was feeling something where I felt like Happy knew something. Like that's
Thank you.
I can
like
agree with that.
that's how I was reading it because
And-
you could see Zendaya looking at him and like trying to piece together why she knew him.
Happy. I love Happy's character. There's something
Yes.
about Happy's character where it's like,
Mhm.
was it Far From Home where you see Happy kind of like go full on like, I know what I'm doing, I got this shit,
Yeah.
and like takes care of Peter,
Yeah.
because Happy
Yep.
is the doofiest motherfucker you have ever seen, and then when shit hits the fan, Happy's like, I know what I'm doing, and it's so weird, and I love his character.
I
So-
want to bring something up, and it's totally unrelated.
Wait, this is
Again-
related. Can I go first?
Yes, go ahead.
So he pulls it together, gets Peter, pulls him onto that airplane, and they land in the field of roses, right? He turns around and looks at
Tulips.
Peter, tulips, whatever, it doesn't matter. He looks at Peter and he sees a young Tony Stark, right? That moment is now gone theoretically. But like anyway, just like that same scene you were talking about was one I had talked about last night with my partner about like that kind of like breaking me a little bit because that was one of my favorite scenes in Far From Home. Anyway,
That-
go ahead.
that-
Brett.
that-
So-
depends
Why'd you
on
have to
Jordan's
do
logic.
that to me?
They have a
Chance.
yeah,
Why'd you have to
but
do that to
so
me?
They make it very clear. People have forgotten Peter Parker. They have not forgotten Spider-Man.
Yeah,
'Cause
but that scene's strictly Peter Parker.
Yeah, that's not.
But he
How
goes,
do you remember that without
ha-
knowing it's
he
Peter?
goes,
Because he's
Happy-
building a suit.
He goes, "How did you know May?" Through Spider-Man. Happy knows Spider-Man. Happy knows Spider-Man's connected to May. Happy's aware that when Tony was alive, Tony was taking care of Spider-Man, and he must remember that when after Tony died, he helped Spider-Man. He just doesn't have a face to put it to. To him, Spider-Man has never taken off the mask.
Which is why, to me, Happy knows something in this moment. I don't know what it is pertaining to Peter. I don't even know if it even has anything to do with Peter. But there's something to do with that scene that maybe I'm just looking into this.
No,
But
I
there's
think
some-
I
yeah,
got
there's
that
something.
same feeling. I kind of thought that like he might have an inkling it's Peter because he's at Stark and they have like surveillance and shit and they kind of know what's going on. So like even though it's been reset, just watching life and like seeing him swinging around at some point, like they would have deduced as Peter.
I just remember the scene where Happy pulls up on his condo and just looks at Peter draped over May, and he has that moment where he's almost angry for a second. Like,
Yeah.
did you get that sense too?
Yeah,
kind of like
yeah.
we let
I
her
also
die,
don't know how
and
I
then he
felt.
goes back to like the people, and like I thought Happy was gonna start
They
fucking
had-
punching bitches.
They
I thought
had
he was
guns
gonna.
No.
trained on him. You saw the
Yo,
laser
I know.
sights
I still
on
thought
him.
he was gonna try.
Dude,
Yeah.
the fact that Happy went from we just saw him getting arrested to now he's at May's grave. Like we did not see him between that.
Yeah, but like what are they gonna do? He like pulled up because his girlfriend to the cops like just got blown up,
His
right?
eyes.
And so then they immediately arrest him and then shoot at somebody. Like that's the thing that like
Yeah.
really irritated me is like
You're
they
shooting
just
at a high
start
schooler.
they just start popping shots. That is against like every code and conduct thing ever. And so like that is actually like what broke me the most is like I don't feel like they're gonna do that. Like
that-
personally.
I was like-
that feels
I was like,
fairly
what-
accurate to real life.
I was like, why? Why are you?
He's a
shooting
white
at
guy. No, it's
child?
not.
This is a child you are shooting at, and a dead person.
Yeah,
Stop.
yeah. It's like obviously he's not doing anything. They can see him clear enough to shoot
We'll
at him.
shoot
So
her
that's
back
why.
to life.
They hit him.
Yeah.
They hit him.
Yeah, they get him in the shoulder.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, can we move on?
I
Yeah,
wanted to
for
bring up one little thing. Okay, Pepper Potts. Where is she at here in this movie?
She sells
100%.
vagina eggs.
Like,
Fuck.
because they make a huge point about the beginning of like the Stark tech and the drones and stuff, and it's like why isn't she helping out Peter? Like, where is Pepper Potts?
I don't think Pepper.
Yeah.
Where is
Doesn't
she?
know her. Doesn't
Like,
know him now.
Yeah,
she's a single mom. Like who's
They
who's
had
a-
like retired and
who's
gone
a-
to live in
yeah,
that cabin.
Yeah.
She's a widow with a daughter. Like I think
They-
she has money from Stark Industries. I don't think she currently works for Stark Industries.
Yeah.
She's still the CEO slash
kinda-
majority
I'm kinda a little
shareholder.
bit-
No,
a
Like,
I
little
don't think. Brett, I really don't think she is. I'm gonna be real with you.
She should be.
well, they haven't explained that she's not anymore. So
Sure.
they need somebody else to come in and be like, hey, I'm
Correct.
controlling
Yeah, you're
Stark.
right about that.
I've
Armor
seen both
Wars.
sides of this.
Boom.
Where it's like she's a single mother, so like she would totally that's where her like time and resources would go to. But she's like super rich because I'm assuming she inherited Tony's wealth, so she could just be
Mhm.
like, yeah, you go do this, like help Peter.
Yeah.
Go.
Hire
I'll
somebody to-
I'll buy a whole wing of MIT and get you in. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I did like, however, that like, sorry, this is the last thing about like, at the beginning,
No, it's
yeah, it's not. At the beginning, Peter fixes the problem. Like, if he hadn't done the spell, he would have fixed the issue, right? And then the rest of the movie happens because he talks to that woman and she changes her mind.
Mhm.
Well,
I know it happens because of Otto, but I still feel like he would have like, I don't know. I just feel like it's
True.
so serendipitous that like he fixes it and then everything else happens. But
but
that's
the
like
only-
Spider-Man.
He would have only fixed one issue, which is the fact that this reveal has ruined him and his friends' lives in the academic sense.
Yeah, but
It would not have taken them out of the spotlight forever.
okay, fair point. Let's go back to the end. I just
Yeah,
that was
so the
something
end.
cool that I
also
I-
in this movie, Spider-Man, like I was like, round 1 was like Spidey versus Otto. Spidey won. Round 2 was essentially Spidey versus Doctor Strange. Spidey won. Like I was like, let's fucking go! Like, dude, he's taking on.
Oh,
these
I thought you were going to be
hitters.
like, oh, like he fought Spider-Man 1 villains first, and then I was like, oh, now Spider-Man 2.
No.
I was like, okay.
Like he was having some like heavy duty bouts, and he was
I-
winning these.
Mhm.
I have one small gripe, and we only got the Goblin mask for 2 seconds. I like the Goblin mask from Spider-Man 1. I don't know about you guys. Obviously, Willem Dafoe without the mask was
It's
amazing.
arguably scarier. No
He
offense.
was so great. I just like that armor and the mask a lot.
because he can emote in it.
Here's the thing.
Mhm.
I love the mask. I don't like it worn.
Sure.
I think the mask honestly serves its purpose by just sitting there.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
That's fucking
Especially
crazy.
when it's like making the
That's
voice
the other
when it's
half, like,
speaking
no.
to him.
Mhm.
There's always the joke people are like he looks like a Power Rangers villain, but I've seen there at one point in making Spider-Man 1, there was a concept to make him look more of like there was like a mask, but not like a physical helmet that would have been like what Norman's face turns into.
Mhm.
That like would have done like the little hat from like the comics. If I was to send you guys the screen
Yeah.
test, it still looks like a Power Rangers villain. The Green Goblin, I'll be honest, it is a little bit hard to adapt in a design sense, kind of like the way with Electro. They kind of
Mhm.
all went, "Hey, we can never do this costume where he has 5 things coming out of his head," which
They
is
did
why
it in this
the
one.
amazing. But this movie was like, "Oh fuck, the PS4 game had a good point by making its scars are actual electricity." Because with the Amazing Spider-Man, they're like, "We can't have him wear this shit. We'll just copy the Ultimate look."
Okay, can we get into the last post credit?
Yes.
Because I didn't see that, so
Okay,
I
It
don't
was-
know what it is.
the last post credit scene
It was
was
a trailer.
essentially a trailer for
No, it
Doctor
is
Strange and-
It's a
or,
trailer that's coming out next week.
of
Dope.
Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness,
Cool.
which I can't believe we have
It
to
was
wait till
dope.
May to watch. We are
It
gonna
is
be in a
good,
not
but I
that
wish I
far
hadn't seen it.
away.
I'm gonna say this right now. I wish I hadn't seen it because I personally there was things in that trailer that I wish I would have seen in theaters. And I don't typically watch trailers at all.
That's also a good point to put maybe why I didn't like the first 45 minutes of this movie. Because like the lines were like they laugh at Otto's name. Like I expect that to happen now. So it didn't do shit for me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, Austin, I feel like if you were to go and just try to find like a leaked thing of this post credit scene, or if it's allegedly coming out next week, watch it. It might change your opinion on some of the Doctor Strange stuff
Sure.
in this movie.
Yeah.
The
Mhm.
other thing is, we were like,
I don't think it will, but I think his opinion about Doctor Strange is
Well-
fine. Like it's not that big a deal.
well, no, Chance, you weren't here for part of it. He was like, Doctor Strange messes up the spell, and I know it wasn't 100% his fault. Part of me thinks it might
didn't
not
say
have been
that.
100% Peter's fault either, because I think the multiverse we know from Loki is all fucked up.
I said it. I don't feel like Doctor Strange would have even attempted the spell. That's what I said.
And that's like I
Yeah.
think that given different iterations of them, I think that's a fine thing.
Stop.
Was that a dog?
I think so.
I That could
My
have been a
dogs.
demon. I have no idea. I just heard like a.
Be gone, demon.
And I was like, all right, I'm dead. I'll see you.
It's my
That was
pug.
actually,
He
that was
sounds
actually
scary.
the lizard. Dr.
Okay.
Connor's just with chance right now.
Yeah.
Shout out to the lizard for just being in the movie.
You mean
Yeah.
the dinosaur?
Yeah.
The dinosaur
He-
talks?
He didn't need to be in it,
Xbox.
but he had to be in it. Same with Sandman.
No,
I'm pretty sure.
I'm sorry for him.
I'm pretty sure for the lizard and Sandman they use recut footage from ASM 1 and Spider-Man 3, which
100%.
Where?
That scene from
when he turns back into Kurt Connors and when Sandman turns
Flint?
back into like just Flint Marko.
Yeah. I noticed
I'm
that when
assuming they use the
because
same exact effect. Yeah.
no, I'm saying like I'm like that shot when Flip Marko turned back into like himself. I'm like that looks straight from Spider-Man 3. Like I thought okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one that noticed that.
Yeah.
Am I the only one who feels like Sandman's role didn't make a whole lot of sense? Because
No, like it didn't.
Like, wouldn't it have made more sense for him
His-
to team up with them if he wanted to go back home?
Well,
He did in the end, yeah.
No, okay, here's the thing. His role in the movie, yes, it was kind of all over the place. For his character from that movie, it made sense to me.
No, I
Yeah,
get
'cause
why he
he's-
wants to go home. I'm talking about allegiance-wise.
Even
No.
his actions made sense to me. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just
I get what you mean. Where like it would have been smarter to kind of like just try to get home instead of like kind of doing a little bit of both sides. I understand what you're saying, but like his character in here made sense, complete 110%.
Like
It
he
made
had
sense.
the Forgiven from the end of Spider-Man 3. So then he's like, "Oh, Peter." Like,
No,
hey.
I like that.
like-
They showed him protect Peter, and he was like, "Hey, Spider-Man, you're a different one, so I don't 100% trust you."
Love
He
that
was-
part.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
When he didn't
I did-
recognize it was a different Spider-Man and he just was like, "Hey, Spider-Man, let's
Yeah.
I did think that was weird that he was just like, "Hey, let's fight this guy. Let's get him." I thought that was weird. That was another
Yeah.
totally weird thing for me
Well,
at the
I
beginning of
think
this movie.
I think he assumed
He was there for like
that-
10 seconds. He's like, "Let's get this guy," and
I
I'm
think
like,
he
"Who-"
assumed
I'm like,
that,
"Who the fuck?"
I think he assumed that was Toby, and went,
Yeah.
No, I
Nah.
understand that. It just
Yeah.
like the way they interacted. Like, okay, like we're friends now. Let's fight this other guy. Like it seems rushed to a point where they just had an understanding. Where I was like, okay, cool. Like,
I
Also-
almost would have rather Topher Grace's Venom be in the movie rather than the dinosaur and Sandman, but then that
Well,
would have
no.
only
What-
been Tobey Maguire villains.
what about the tree guy?
Fair point. Fair point.
I also do like the way they had the villains that existed in the later movies explain the villains from the earlier movies.
Yeah, that was cool.
Which,
Yeah.
especially because Flint Marko was like, "By the way, I know about you and your fate," and it made a lot of sense that like they got taken like 5 minutes before. Like Otto is literally 5 minutes before the end of Spider-Man 2 when he gets taken.
Yeah, still. So are we?
So
Are
we
we
could
gonna
talk.
go
I feel like we
into
leave
the
wishy-washy
Venom,
the end.
the Venom thing some more. Do we want to talk about that?
So when I saw the post-credit scene for Venom 2 leak, I was like, all right, listen, they've been rumoring for a while that they want to merge the two universes. I do not want to see Tom Holland get integrated to the Sonyverse. I will accept Venom getting integrated to the MCU because I trust that more.
But
Turns
They
out
didn't-
it was
they didn't do that.
unnecessary. No,
They didn't do any of that.
Literally
They just have
did
a
all of
little,
that.
which doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any fucking sense. If this is the like particles or I don't know molecules from the other thing, it would just like blow away like everyone else. But
Mhm.
because he's Venom, here he is. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't care. I don't. This was the best possible outcome of him having
Agreed.
literally any fucking involvement in this at all.
A
This was
100%.
the
I had to fight
110%
this
the best
black
outcome.
goo once.
I did have to fight this one black goo alien thing. Oh, I fought an alien. I want to fight an alien.
I want to fight an alien.
And then he talks about
I'm a laid
fighting.
back Spider-Man.
He fights, and then he talks about fighting freaking Paul Giamatti when
Yeah.
when he
Rhino.
pantses him. When he pantses him, I was
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a
oh my
robot
gosh.
rhinoceros.
Does anybody wish that they had lines that weren't about the movies that we saw? Does that make sense? Like if Peter goes, "Oh, I fought the
Yeah.
Vulture," and then Toby went, "Oh, I fought the Vulture too," because it kind
They
of
had a
tells us
few
that
of those.
stuff happened. Where? Because I personally, everything they mentioned to me was stuff that we
The
saw
one that
in the
popped-
movies.
The one that popped in my head was Tobey Maguire saying that he and MJ they worked it out.
Yeah. So I
That can
personally
be assumed, but like you
Yes,
don't know
okay.
that.
I meant more in terms of the Spider-Man.
Sure,
I think that
Sure.
they kept it just to the people that we knew to very much solidify that these are the
They're
Andrew
not variants
Garfield.
of Toby or
These are the
Andrew.
ones we
Correct.
know, and so that's the
Yep.
only reason why they brought up, or that's the reason they only brought up the villains we've seen in the movies. That's my thing about it, because it was like very clear after they said that of like, nope, there's no doubt these are our Spider-Mans.
Yeah. By the way, when all of them are coming through in the silhouettes, like I read about some silhouettes that people noticed that I personally didn't, but I saw a silhouette for Rhino and a silhouette for Scorpion. Some people are
My
claiming they
friend
saw
saw a
one
Scorpion one.
for Black Cat. Yeah, people are saying they
And
saw one for
Kang.
Black
Craven.
Cat and one
Craven.
for Craven. Yeah.
Craven,
I
sorry,
could have
Craven.
swore this literally. I saw it for half a second, and my theater was dark. I could have swore I saw what looked like the silhouette of Gwen
Celestial?
from Spider-Verse. I
Oh,
could have
really?
swore that's what I saw. I'm
Spider-Gwen?
like, I'm like, there's no fucking way.
We
But
gotta
I
we
thought
gotta
that's
wait.
what
We
I
gotta
saw.
wait for the high res screen grab of.
There
that.
Right.
were apparently rumors.
I'm
that
gonna
they
go
wanted-
watch New Rockstars right after this to see you.
Hell yeah.
You know Eric Voss
Hell
saw
yeah,
that
dude.
shit, dude.
Yeah.
I love Eric. He's so
The
good.
best at what he does. The
Dude.
absolute best.
Him and what's his name? His co-host. I forget it. Oh shoot. Do you know who I'm talking about? His co-host on the podcast, and he also does videos.
I only
Tim,
watch
are you
his,
talking
his
about
like
Tim and
10-minute
Eric?
videos. Is it the African American guy or the other one?
Yes.
I don't remember his name.
He is like just as good, if not better, than Eric. I love their podcast together. Post like Hawkeye and stuff. Oh, sorry, just had to go on a rant real quick.
Oh yeah, they're great. Every time
Yeah.
I see them on a thumbnail, it doesn't have to be New Rockstars. Like if I see them on other people's content, I'm like, this is an instant watch. I don't give a fuck what it is.
And his
Also-
segues, oh shit, they're smooth.
Also, to be fair, if they hadn't killed Aunt May, Peter would have had to make everybody has to forget about me except Aunt May, which means every Aunt May in the multiverse would have ended up coming through
I would have loved to see Spider-Verse Aunt May in there. She was
into
pretty
the Aunt
badass.
May verse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right.
Alright, do we want to discuss more about the ending? Because I feel like we didn't. I thought we were gonna end up talking more about it.
Alec brought it up a little bit, but the suit, the classic,
suit,
the classic,
so
the
good.
classic suit.
I need a closer
amazing.
look. I need to inspect it.
I loved it.
That's-
I loved how mysterious it was. I loved it.
I
The
love
blue was a
brighter
little too.
tones.
Yeah, the
I-
blue was a little too much on first glance, but after like seeing him swinging it, I'm like, no, this is like exactly what I imagine when I think of Peter out on his own. Like this is perfect, and especially to contrast the dark of the black and
The
red.
neon
which I-
lights of New
Yeah.
York
Like,
City.
Did
I
it,
got
did it imply that he made it?
Yes, because
Yeah.
they're
It's a sewing
sewing
machine
machine.
right there.
I thought so. I was just.
Which also, I
would-
feel like we never discussed that when he gets bitten by the spider in every iteration, he learns how to fucking sew.
Yeah.
Sewing's not that hard for the record.
so-
I can sew and I don't sew. Like I've done
So
it
what-
before.
One thing I wanted to bring up is that everybody had gripes about the different Spider-Man, right? They had gripes that Tobey Maguire was selfless. What does he do? One of the most selfless things and gets like stabbed in the back, whatever. However you want to describe it. Andrew Garfield saves Gwen. Everybody, and myself included, kind of didn't like how much Peter was just handed everything. And so having this restart really takes every kind of like argument against any other Spider-Man for one or the other away, because now they all are on like equal ground. And that's why I like the way it ended, is because now we have Spider-Man exactly where the other Spider-Mans were at, and just like, I don't know, it just like perfectly
agree.
like
agree.
no
100%
more,
agree.
like they're all the same.
Well, no, the
100%
worst part
agree.
about the ending. The worst part about the ending is that I want to see them again in
Yes.
this world.
Yes.
It's never gonna fucking happen. don't get me wrong.
Do you
or
know
like,
what I would give for a fucking mini series? Even if it was just a half-hour cut of them in the science lab, just talking about what their
Yeah.
experience versus their experience, and like,
But I think the brevity is what made it so good. Like
Yeah.
it didn't overstay its welcome. That's why it's so good and why we loved it and why we want more.
True.
If it would have overstayed its welcome, we would be bitching about it. But since it was so brief and it was so good, like that's why we loved it so much. And I personally think that I want to see them both back, and I think they would find ways, if it fits, to bring them back. I think Andrew Garfield was way easier than Tobey. I think Tobey's kind of like stepped away from Hollywood quite a bit, and I'm actually super surprised they got him back.
hey, that is the narrator of the Boss Baby movies you're talking about.
Okay.
Okay.
one thing I wanted to bring up was I wish Toby's Peter Parker and Norman had more like one-on-one.
Yeah.
Not enough one. They had Toby and
I thought
Doc Ock had
him and
some-
Alfred Molina solidified,
Yeah.
like, that was enough. I felt like if he had it with both of them and Andrew didn't have it with anybody, it would have felt weird.
He had that one
I
moment
agree,
with-
though.
He had the
Yeah.
one moment with Jamie Foxx. I'm gonna say this. I liked how the movie acknowledged that in their own way, each of these villains are sympathetic, which there's an argument to be made that every villain is sympathetic from their own point of view. I personally feel like it went too far with Norman and Electro. Those are like the two least of the sympathetic ones to me. You guys are free to disagree with that, but
I disagree because I mean what I said earlier is like a big
Mental
part
health.
a big part of this iteration of Green Goblin is that it's like literally a mental health issue.
maybe
Like, he has split personality disorder.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't want to do this, and it's ruining the regular
It's so much
Norman.
more. It's so much more than like dissociative identity. It's so much more than that. It's
Yeah.
way
Just-
exemplified, but
just
Yeah,
to
oh, yeah,
simplify-
I was just simplifying
I
it.
just
Like,
wanted to put that on the table.
yeah, yeah. I apologize.
I think this movie I think maybe the reason I feel about that way is this movie played into that more than Spider-Man 1 did, where in Spider-Man 1 he gets the moment where he's like, I don't want to be like this, but it turns out that's just an act to trick and try to kill Peter. So
yeah, but if
you-
we're giving redemption to
because-
this,
That's because this form of it's not, but this form of dissociative identity, the goblin persona is always in control. He just lets what's his name?
Norman.
Norman. I almost said Nolan, and I was like, that. No, that's wrong. They always let Norman, like, he appears and he feels like he's in control, but the goblin is back there and he can like do that
No,
whenever
but-
he can just hit the switch at whenever he wants.
I
But
would
that's
say-
why it's like that.
I feel like there's 4 versions. There's Norman, there's the Goblin, there is Norman cowering at the Goblin because he's never as confident when he's doing that. And then there's the Goblin pretending to be Norman to get people to pull their guard down.
I don't think he was pretending though. I think he was literally
Oh.
just like until this
I-
moment where he was cured, there was no Norman at all. The only time Norman was there was when Goblin allowed him.
Mhm.
He was literally in like a locked box. Like think like anime Naruto. Like he's locked behind bars back there. You can't do shit.
I
Unless
agree.
He's let out.
Okay,
Because
and then-
he took over right at the time that it was like most necessary, so he saw an
Yeah.
opportunity to let him go and like
He even
position
said like
himself.
I let him out and I was just watching from the background kind of stuff. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's literally his
And then
line.
with Electro was just a guy who was mad at the world. And the second he had a way to hurt it, he was like, I'm gonna take it out. And to me, that's not as sympathetic.
That did feel a little, I don't know, not bad, not great. It felt kind of meh. Like it worked enough for me, but it wasn't
Like-
like a highlight or anything.
And I
I'm
know
gonna
when
say
they-
that's a very real human emotion, though. When somebody has
is.
not felt ever in control, and then all of a sudden they're given a huge amount of power, they very much like they feel like they have some making up to do, or at least in my experience, it's felt that way. So to me, I agree. Like he
I'm not
may be
denying
one of the
that's
weaker
not
ones.
realistic, but like, I don't want to turn this into a whole debate about the Amazing Spider-Man 2 because I know that's a contentious movie to put it lightly. But I would argue that Dane DeHaan's Goblin is more sympathetic than Jamie Foxx's Electro because he has the Goblin disease, which messes him up, and he's also a kid afraid of becoming sick and dying. And I don't know, maybe it's my own perspective on health and stuff, but like to me, that would have been like if I was just, and I'm only using that because they're the ones that were in the same movie. That's more
Mhm.
sympathetic to me.
Regardless, I think the moment that Andrew Garfield Spider-Man has with Jamie Foxx's character at the end, where they're defeated, and he's like kind of like, you got me. This is
He's
what
like,
it is.
yeah, I'm all
whatever.
tapped out.
I'm
here."
I'm done. Like you don't have to worry about him. And then he helps him up. He's like, yeah, you tried,
Mhm.
buddy. Like
I know a lot of people that are going to be like, I think it's dumb that Peter tried to save all of them. I'm not disagreeing with that, but it is very in character. I actually saw a comic the other day where Sandman is in the hospital. It's like he's gotten old and he's dying, and Peter goes to visit him, and Flint's like, "What are you doing here? Like, I'm too old. I'm not gonna hurt you." And Peter's like, "No, like, I want to see you. Like, this is gonna sound weird, but like, nobody kind of deserves to die alone." Thing, and he sneaks him out of the hospital and onto a beach, and he's just talking to him. And while they're talking, he just becomes part of the sand. Like, that's a really dumb way of explaining it, but he passes, and then therefore he's not there anymore. And it's like this weird thing of like, a good chunk of Spider-Man's villains are sympathetic in their own way. He has a really good rogues gallery. I'd say it's up there with Batman's.
I do want to see, because in my mind, the coolest things on paper, on comics of Spider-Man, is when Spider-Man is fighting like 7 villains at once. When he is like twisting and doing all this crap and like to put a web in your eyes, dodging this guy, getting walloped by another one, like that is the coolest shit ever to me. And I don't feel like we've got that yet. We haven't got
Well,
that scene. Like kind of similar to, was it like the debut trailer of the PS4 Spider-Man where they're all on that thing and like they're all coming in? Kind
yeah,
of like
raft,
that.
it was like
yeah.
the reveal was during
Yeah.
the raft. Okay, that actually reminded me of two things I want to say. One is slipping my mind. The other thing I want to
Ugh.
say is, can we talk about that fight with Goblin at the end? Because it is a thing in the comics that when somebody fucks with someone Peter loves, and like it's been done with Aunt May, because there was a point where Kingpin got her shot and then that's reversed because of a vampire, don't ask. Or sorry, because of the devil. Peter goes to Kingpin without speaking, and all the villains are like, this is weird that he's not talking. And he fucks Kingpin up like an inch from death without saying a word. And that's his way of being like, I could kill you anytime I want. And he had that with Goblin here. And the fact that when he was calmed down, that it was done without any words was so fucking good. That all Toby had to do was look at him.
I genuinely, in that moment, I was like, he won't kill him, but will he? Like, I was like, is he gonna? Like, I was like, 90-10. Like, he won't, but he might.
Yeah, but like I really felt like they rode that line and it was like such a human emotion of like you're so filled with rage you don't realize your friend has just stepped in front of you. All you see is the dude that's behind this thing that just stepped in front of you, and then Toby just doesn't flinch and just keeps looking at him in his eyes until he recognizes like
That
I'm your
was
friend and I'm telling you to stop, and then immediately as soon as he realizes Toby gets stabbed and it's like anyway, dude, oh my God.
It reminded me
that was a
of
great moment.
it
Yeah.
reminded me of scenes from Spider-Man 1 and 2 where the glider's coming at Toby and he's holding it.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Doc Ock tentacle coming at him and he's holding it.
Every
Yeah.
single time the glider hit someone, I assumed it had the fucking blades out. Because like when he was going to catch MJ, and then the glider hits him, and we see Andrew catch her, I was like, "Fuck! Did he just get stabbed?" I was like, "No, the glider's just pushing him away."
Well, it
They're like-
shows that in the movie when Osborn gets stabbed that the blades come out. Like it's not just like bladed all the time. Like it's
I know that
sharp.
they come out, but for some reason, I assumed they were like always when the goblin sent it to him that they were always retracted.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
You
I
know
do
what I
want-
mean? Yeah.
I do want to mention one thing. I know we're going real long. Before we,
You know what?
like,
It's a
wrap-
long
wrap
movie. It
all
needs a
up.
long podcast.
But I think
I
it's-
also have to edit it tonight.
people might discredit this and think, no, there is definitely one. I don't think there's a central villain in this movie, and I think that's really, really cool. Like some would
Yeah.
say, probably Goblin. Like if you had to label one, it's Goblin. Like that's the one
Yeah.
you put on like.
But
on the
isn't it
docket.
kind of Peter? Like which makes it
I
the
mean,
coolest thing?
I get that, but I'm eliminating that. Like,
Yeah.
I understand that, but like, there's no main villain, and to me, those movies usually are better in my mind.
Mhm.
It's just there's something a little bit in the back of my head. Like, I wish there was just like I wanted that sixth member to come out of the shadows. Like he was here all along. He's like, this is my moment. So
I would argue
let's
that
fucking get this shit. But it
I
doesn't.
think
that
I think they
Goblin's the
kept it to
central
5 for
villain.
a reason.
Well,
No,
again,
I'm with
Fearsome
you. I agree.
5.
you could
Yeah.
even argue it's not a full 5 because Doc Ock wasn't part of them as a team against Peter, and Flint Marco again was just kind of like, "Give me the box. I want to go home. Fuck all
Well,
this."
none of them
think-
were really a team.
I think part of me just wanted 6 for the homage of it.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
And
Yeah,
then I
100%.
thought it'd be cool if it was 5 until like the very end. And then some mystery villain was here, and somehow this dude stays. Don't know
Listen,
why. The
Mysterio,
MCU writers would figure it out.
Mysterio could easily come back.
I mean, it was
Just-
Venom if we want to get down to it, but that's a
Sure.
shitty answer.
Mysterio could
True,
come back
true.
because to
double
butcher
tap.
Odin's quote, Mysterio was not a person; it was a people. Like that was a group of them.
It's a people.
It's a people. Austin, though, you
It's a
reminded me of.
community.
I
It's
did
a
remember what I
family.
wanted to say about at the very end with Peter going back to being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, this guy that is not doing world-ending threats. Nobody knows who he is anymore.
Love it.
And you being like, I love these Spider-Man moments. That remembered, I saw a meme the other day where it was like,
Great.
Spider-Man is literally. He goes, Spider-Man is so much more deeper the less he has to do. It's like Spider-Man saving the world. That was cool. This was fun. Spider-Man walking a little old lady across the street. You are going to have a speech about humanity that you never realized. Like, and that is
Yeah.
what it.
My
Yeah.
favorite. It's not a meme. First, it might be. I don't know. I don't fucking know. But there's an image that my friends used to send back and forth, and it's like him squinting, and it just says "What in the actual fuck?" And it's him like in like the animated show, like the current-ish like recent one. And he's just "What in the actual fuck?" And I love that picture. I'll see if I can find it.
Oh, see, I've seen one that's like, I love Peter Parker because no matter what age they show him at, his fridge has always just got like half a dozen eggs and a leftover Chinese food in it, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The essentials, some would say.
I want to say, was Green Goblin always that strong? Because like he like pile drive Peter through a concrete floor.
Yeah, he's always been that strong, I think.
Yeah.
In the movies, I'm not sure like how extensive it goes in the comics.
This was more of a brutal
of the character, but in the movies, like when he gets a serum, he's on par with Spider-Man.
Like, he punches him through a brick wall at one point.
This was more of a brutal showing, in my opinion, but like I feel like it was on par for his strength.
Yeah, because he does
it's been a while since I've seen the first Spider-Man, so
that's fair. That's
fair.
I
did also have that moment of like he caught the Winter Soldier's fist. Like he's not weak, and this dude is driving him through concrete. So like he is on another level.
Like, but like I slamming him through the floor.
But remember, Peter pulls his punches. Say that 3 times fast. And with Bucky, he was just grabbing and stopping. With this, he is in a different position, and he also had more of a reputation of like, I really do want to help this guy, because at the end, Peter could have fucked him up anytime he wanted.
I'm not saying that the Winter Soldier is weak. I'm just saying this guy is capable, and so that means like this person putting him through concrete is also equally as capable.
Yeah. No, it's definitely an impressive feat.
There was a move that he did that I've heard was in the game, and I thought it was something that he did against Green Goblin. But do you guys know what I'm talking about? There's like a specific combo that he does that's from the game, and Tom Holland has like talked about it.
Probably when they're fighting on the shield.
Yeah, because that's when I thought it was, but I couldn't remember.
Maybe when he webs his feet and he pulls him down.
Yes, that's what it was.
Maybe it was. I don't remember what it was per se, but there was definitely like a combo there that caught my eye.
Because also, Far From Home referenced the game as well when he's swinging with MJ and he takes the selfie. That's the same pose and like way you do the selfies in the game.
There was a second there when Otto Octavius like returns the nanomites and like it goes back to his suit. It looked like the White Spider for a second from the game, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
I really like the story of that suit.
Yeah.
Of the integrated suit, of how the nano things went to Doc, and so when Doc is nice again, he like gives it to Peter, but he's not wearing the rest of the nano suit, so he just has that one almost like piece of armor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super dope.
And it looked white. It looked like an homage to the PS4 suit. Like that's what it looked like.
Well, isn't it super close to the integrated suit from the game?
No, the integrated suit was just put in the game.
Yeah, but it was put in the game before this movie came out.
I'm saying the integrated suit from this movie was just put in the game like last week because of the movie.
I thought it was already in the game. I thought it was already in it. Sorry, my bad.
No, yeah.
Spidey man.
Have you guys seen the meme of like, I don't know if it's from Spider-Man 1, but it's Willem Dafoe looking up panicked, and it's like the Green Goblin when he sees triangle and circle above his head when the PS4 Spider-Man comes
I didn't see that. Anytime someone looks up in panic, I just think of the Hillary Clinton when the balloons are falling.
Austin, I don't know why you're able to match that face so well.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Any final thoughts on this?
I'll read Chris's thoughts real quick.
Oh, shit. Yeah, Chris.
Just one lower third comes up off in the left-hand corner.
Oh my god, do that. Put a little image of him, like super small too.
It's that 2.5 Men meme of like, why do I feel like we're forgetting something? And it's just Chris in the rain.
Yes.
I wish we could record Chris in like a little box behind a green screen. He's just like, let me out. He's little.
I think we could. He's just I think
what we need to do is tell Chris to go outside and then tell Brittany to just put a hose like it's raining and pouring.
Why are we doing this? I don't know.
One meme that Jordan came up with.
Anyway, it says, Spider-Man has always been my favorite. Grew up with Tobey's Peter, loved Andrews as a high schooler, and I've always loved what the MCU has portrayed Spidey with Tom's. No Way Home managed to not only be a great story for Tom's Peter in his own right, but also pay homage to 2 other generations of the character by having them play the mentor role, and still get some small progression. It was an absolute joy seeing Andrew in particular back in the suit, and all three characters felt so different yet complementary to each other at the same time. The same can be said for the villains. All are excellently written and performed well, particularly Goblin. Willem Dafoe put on an absolute showcase on why Gobby will always be Spidey's greatest villain. A perfect Spider-Man movie, and now my favorite MCU film.
Fuck yeah. Couldn't agree more.
He said Tom's Peter.
Yep. Tom's Petey.
That actually brings
my
something
God.
up that I
Bro.
that I was.
Why have we not thought about that until
Tom's Petey.
Hey, all three of them have their own Peter, and it's different in their own ways.
There's something about the name Tom.
Yeah.
Tom's Peter.
Chance, you brought up like if you'd ever want to see Toby and Andrew back again. I thought yesterday, I was like, and I don't think we'll ever see them back in any significant capacity, like even to this level. But they were on set. Benedict Cumberbatch was on set. I wonder, like, I feel like it wouldn't be out of the realm if in Multiverse of Madness, if he's going through the multiverses.
It's too soon. It's too soon.
But like he could check in with them because hypothetically, by fixing everyone's fate, that could fuck up the multiverse more.
All right, now you're getting arrogant. You were right about this. Yep. Don't push your luck, okay? It's way too soon for them to be in multiverse.
The most I can see is like a line.
I don't mean at a significant.
Okay. I think Loki season 2 is more likely, personally.
Ooh. But I can see like Multiverse of Madness if he's going through these realities and he sees like what looks like a Spider-Man swinging and he's like, nope, saw that, did that. I'm not doing that shit again. Nope.
I could see that. I don't see them like showing up and talking or having any like the face or any of that. I don't think they show.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a thing at all. But if it is, it'll be like, nope. I've ever been down the multiple Spideys thing. We're not doing that shit again.
The biggest thing I've seen is people wanting Andrew to become the Spider-Man in the Venom universe. I feel like that's been the most consistent thing.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. If Andrew wants to do that, fucking do it for him. Just for him. Just give him a movie. That's all I care.
We can have two Spider-Man. Like, we're not stupid. We can understand the differences. Plus this movie has already like explained who he is. Yeah, but if anybody who's gonna watch this new Spider-Man movie, I would think would understand that this Spider-Man movie that just came out happened, and that previous Spider-Man was like, people aren't stupid about this anymore. I don't feel like.
So I'll say, and I am quoting one thing, but
people who don't like superhero movies aren't going to go see a Spider-Man movie.
If you're very if you're
very
casually involved, because I saw, like, I remember when the rumors last year first started about Toby and Andrew. And somebody in the comments went, I've been trying to explain to my mom for 3 years that those movies have no impact on the MCU. What the fuck do I do now?
That is ironic. That is ironic. I think I don't know if I brought this up or not, but when we see Matt Murdock on screen and everyone was like whispering, my theater didn't know shit. My theater had no fucking idea who that man was. Where it was just like, me. No, hold on. It was just me, and I was like, and no one was doing shit. I'm like,
oh my.
So one of the friends I brought to the movie that was sitting right next to me, one of the
I'm so sorry.
Was Daredevil. So me and him were like, and again, I was unapologetically the loudest person. I was like, whoa! And then there in the audience, there was a few other like, yeah, but like nothing compared to when you saw Toby and Andrew first appear, or when the three of them all landed and you saw the other two. Like, oh god, that's. I think I already mentioned. I can't remember if I mentioned that on here right before we started rolling, but like that will become my new desktop wallpaper the second I can get it in HD.
Hell yeah!
No, my desktop wallpaper right now is still currently like that last scene from Miles Morales, like that, or the PS4 game.
Yeah,
both.
I'm gonna buy so much. I'm gonna buy so much merch of like Toby, Andrew, and Tom, like shirts.
Yes.
So, like, yeah, everything.
Oh, dude, the more bootleg, the better.
I have seen so many fan-made posters, and now that they have actual cuts to take from, this is gonna be fan-made posters are gonna blossom.
In true brand fashion, my screensaver is Lady Maria of the Astral Clock Tower.
I really thought you were about to say Dimitrescu.
For some reason, I thought Lady Gaga. So whatever.
I mean, that's also on brand, but that's besides the point.
So my phone background and my desktop background are just like some vaporwave 80s shit because I'm like that, but my MacBook that I've had since my freshman year of college, the background I've always had on it is a promotional picture from Ultimate Alliance 1 of Spider-Man just going like this with two webs. it
Mhm.
looks so fucking badass. And I've tried to put it on this computer, but the resolution isn't big enough because I have a 55-inch 4K thing as my one of my monitors. So I was
Mhm.
like, okay, I'll stick on the MacBook.
Yeah.
All right.
Great film.
Great
Yep.
film.
Yeah.
I can't believe it happened. The Mad Men, they fucking did it.
Mhm.
You're welcome for
like-
all my effort of just praying all these years again. And
I'll say
you know,
right now-
guys, I don't need the thanks. Like, I did it for me.
I'll say right now I have it in my top 5. I want to watch it again before I officially rank it in my MCU
I
ranking.
do want to watch it again because I do think that discussing this with you guys has made me kind of put the movie before my emotions in a way. So I'm definitely going to go back. And there's also that idea of like me sitting there and every second of the movie, like, is this going to have it? Like, when, like, I
Mhm.
wasn't like they have to show up in the first scene, but it's always like, what's going to lead to the chain of events that happens, you know? And in my head, I was like, I want one of them to come in all grandiose, maybe swing through and then land. And looking at it now, like, I'm very happy that neither of them came in with a lot of like fanfare.
Yeah. And it was just kind of like an actual reveal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It did kind of feel like sitcom-y, like when the guest star walks in, like there was almost like that little pause of the audience
yeah.
that could go, what? But I don't mean like in the movie theater, I mean like a live studio audience. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's easily the best Holland Spider-Man film.
Yep.
It's I don't know where I would rank it specifically, but it is definitely high up on my personal list. I saw some people, I gotta say this, and there's no hate here. I saw some people saying this was better than Endgame. I don't agree with that at all. I love
I-
Spider-Man to death. I just like the Endgame stuff was just 10 years of build up, and
Thank you
this
for
This
that.
was
is
more
20. This is 20.
Yeah, but
And
it's not
they-
the same
they-
thing though.
It was
It's not-
arguably harder.
it is very different where
it's
it
not
also
as
does that whole
integrated
thing of-
storytelling of the Spider-Man films.
it is
though.
also that whole thing where some
Distributed shit.
people, somebody like Endgame had the most hype ever, but they believe Infinity War to be the better objective film.
Sure.
So I guess like I don't know if anything like will take Endgame from like a number 1 in my ranking because I cannot. Even if you dislike the MCU, there's something to be said about wrapping up well 11 years of storytelling that spans 20 movies that don't even always have the same branding. Like, sure, Star Wars lasted 40 years, but it was only 9 movies and they were all Star Wars. Like, this is like, there are people who saw Endgame that probably didn't see Doctor Strange's solo movie, skipped one of the Thor
yeah.
movies. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Oh
Mhm.
yeah. Nothing will ever, in my opinion, ever top On Your Left in Endgame.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Yo,
Watch
you
it
say
fu-
that, and I'm like, but maybe the Mjolnir? But and like I think
the,
about
the whole thing encompasses that for the record. But yeah,
Yeah,
there's the Mjolnir moment, there's the On Your Left, there's the
Avengers Assemble.
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
the Avengers pause assemble.
Yeah.
Literally
Dude,
my
the
theater
theater
was like,
experience
Same.
for going for that. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're going on, but yeah,
Yeah, we gotta cut this. I gotta edit this, and I got plans.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on this long journey. It fucking happened. We will see you next time. Bye.